We're back.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Fire the Cannon. I'm Rocky.
And I'm Megan, and we are Fire the Cannon.
Welcome back. So we're doing the live episode tonight instead of Thursday afternoon because tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Yay. We're so thankful we've took a chance and did our own new platform, and it's growing and it's fun, and we get to talk Texas. So that's always great. So happy Thanksgiving, Megan.
Happy Thanksgiving. I'm excited for all we have going on. I've got a lot of irons in the fire. How about you? I feel like you are always crazy this time of year with all your prepping and getting ready for everything and taking care of everybody like you do.
Yeah, it's good. So I just been trying to take care of myself, which I love doing. So I found my new boxing gym. I remember I talked a couple weeks ago about I was doing ClassPass and hopping around to all these classes. With ClassPass, I found my home. I found this amazing boxing gym that really incorporates a lot of real boxing with real boxers, but also a ton of dumbbells and running and sprints and jumping jacks and jump rope and all that, and a lot of punching the bags. I love it. I'm so happy. It's called Legends Boxing on Brody Lane. Love it so much. The crew there's a good variety of people in the gym, like all ages, all people, men and women. It's such a cool spot. So I'm loving it. And that's it. Nadia's in California playing rugby. I will go meet her there on Friday and watch her play. So she's sending pictures with all these world famous Olympian rugby players. And, it's pretty cool. So she's making new friends, which is always the best part.
That is very cool. You got to love it. That girl she leads a charmed life, doesn't she? She gets picked up by Olympian, right? Rugby Olympian.
Well, no, he played before the Olympics went back into rugby. Rugby went back into the Olympics. So, but he's been played for USA Rugby World Cups and all over the world. His name is Todd Clever. He's one of our good family friends. He's the one who invited Nadia to. People call him Captain America. He's the one who has invited Nadia to come be on this U18 team. So that's pretty cool. So she's got to, go hold her own when she gets there, which I think she'll do a good job.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you, how's your new job going?
It's good. It's definitely an adjustment being in the office, but let me tell you, I should have had it out and ready next to me just so I could show you the obnoxiousness of this. But I got to say, I got hired right at the holidays. I suppose if you're going to start a new job, the holidays are a good way to ease into it because I have to, tomorrow off, obviously. But one of the things this company does is they buy Thanksgiving pies for every employee that's there. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
Great.
It'll be yeah, I was thinking a little personal pie or a little, whatever, something.
Here's a picture of your realistic pie.
Yeah. Oh, that sounded super sexual, didn't it? Yeah. Listen, this thing is, I want people to pay attention. This is actually in the seat of my Bronco. And I know I've got a bunch of crap in the front seat, but if you look at it, this pie is almost as big as the literal front seat of my Bronco. It is obnoxiously big. I got this pie. I walked into the kitchen where they were giving them out. And I was like, what are we going to do? I picked it up and almost did one of those double takes where you fall down from the weight of this pie. It is obnoxious. But yeah, I living by myself, being single, I don't know how I'm going to get through all this pecan pie, but
I think you cut it into chunks and freeze pieces and just pull out a fifth of a pie every couple of weeks or something.
That's the question is, do I have that kind of self-restraint?
I mean, eat some now. So we'll talk a little bit about our favorite Thanksgiving traditions real quick. And if you want to put yours into, of course, the most classic of all time was Texas A&M on Thanksgiving night, right? So we'll talk about that. We're going to do a little 20 questions about the rivalry. We kind of just said, you come with 10 questions. I come with 10 questions about anything Longhorns versus Aggies. And if our watchers and listeners, if you have questions, on the YouTube, you can comment with your questions for us about any questions about the Longhorn and Aggie rivalry or game, right? Anything around the world of Texas versus Texas A&M. We have college football rivalry hate week is happening. So we'll talk about the new brackets, how the playoffs are looking, what big rivalry matchups we're most excited about. We'll pick some good games against the spread as usual, and then we'll get into it. We'll break down the matchups of the rivalry restored, our favorite moments, the craziness of this environment that Texas is going into. We'll look at the matchups and where does Texas have an advantage and where do the Aggies have an advantage. And we'll just break down what our keys to wins, what it's going to take for a Texas win or an Aggie win. Lots to talk about tonight. So I'm glad we moved it up to tonight so everybody can just enjoy Thanksgiving tomorrow, not worry about us having to stream in the middle of the day. All right. So your plans for Thanksgiving, Megan?
Yeah, I'm kind of all over the place like usual. I feel like my Thanksgivings and my Christmases often end up the same, where I'm just kind of bouncing all over the place. But yeah, it's going to be kind of a lazy morning, and then I'm heading to my parents for a late breakfast, a late Thanksgiving breakfast at their place in the morning, and then I'm going to do my best to pop into my girls, Stevie and Mia's place, say hi to them.
Out in Wimberley? Aren't they
Oh,
out?
they're like Cedar Park, Liberty Hillish area, so not.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's not terrible. My parents are in Round Rock, so it's not that much of a drive away from Round Rock. But then got to come back, check on the dogs, and of course, it wouldn't be Thanksgiving without seeing my best friend. So I'll be crashing your party as always, and bringing pie apparently. So much pie.
Please don't bring that much pie.
Right.
We're a small group this year. Last year we had 20 something, almost 30 people at Thanksgiving. This year we have 5, which I kind of dig. I'm still cooking just as much food though.
Right.
So we have a small little group, just a little family dinner.
Yeah.
All right. So favorite Thanksgiving food?
Yeah. Look, I am all about some mashed potatoes. I feel like this is starting to be a tradition. Like, does 2 times make a tradition where I have too much of one food, right? Last year, my very favorite side dish or very favorite dish, and this is, I mean, these are anytime potatoes, but I really like them during Thanksgiving and really like them during Christmas. But it's a cream cheese mashed potato that we got the recipe. My family and I got the recipe from the Olympia Hotel, which is out in the Fort Davis Mountains. And it's just a really, really tasty recipe. Last year, I thought I was going to be, contributing to the big dinner. And I took the recipe, which said it fed, I want to say it said it fed like 12. Right. But as you mentioned,
1,200.
That's the thing, man.
You have like vats. The only way to describe how much mashed potatoes you brought was vats of mashed potatoes. It was like lunch lady level.
Oh, it was crazy. And here's the thing. I went over to, again, my parents' place. I live in my 5th wheel, so I don't have a ton of space in the kitchen. I'm like, all right, I'm making potatoes for 25 people. I need a little bit of room. So I doubled the recipe that said it fed 12, doubled it up to 24, thought that would be a good level. And about halfway through making these potatoes, I was like, oh no, this feels like too many potatoes. And by the time it was done,
potatoes is plenty.
Yeah, it was crazy. But they were good potatoes. You got to admit, they were good.
They were good. It was just so much. So this is the cheese that goes into my macaroni and cheese. I use a ton of all kinds of cheese, and then it's all prepped, ready to go. That's my favorite thing to do, is make mac and cheese. And I saw this TikTok that says, you are a cocky, confident person. They used other words if you say you'll bring the mac and cheese.
That's fair.
I love my mac and cheese. And once it's all crispy and crunchy on the top, oh, so good. CB, happy Thanksgiving to you. Happy Thanksgiving to you. We know you're having a special cooking. You're cooking this year, and hope everything turns out great.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So let's dive into it, Megan. We thought it would be really fun to do 20 questions. I have 10, you have 10. We'll just take turns back and forth discussing anything and everything about Texas/Texas A&M, hate, rivalry, love, houses divided, all the talk, right? So I will let you go first, Megan.
Oh, all right. Let me ask you this. So do you think it is good for college football that this game is back? This particular rivalry is being played back on the gridiron?
It is great because this year, the first year back, it already matters more than any other rivalry happening this weekend, right? Michigan, Ohio State doesn't matter, other than, Ohio State should run all over Michigan. USC, Notre Dame is happening. That's got implications if USC pulls off the upset. But right now, this game coming back, it just happens to come back when massive things are on the line, right? Aggies have been in the conference, 13 years now, and still haven't sniffed the conference championship game. They have this opportunity if they beat Texas Texas first year in could go right into the game. So yes, it's great for college football. It's great for people, these young students, these young athletes who didn't live the rivalry, young families who haven't lived the rivalry, to feel what it's like to have to sit around the table with other, with the other team. What do you think? Is it great that it's back?
Yeah, look, I think it is. I think, especially for the state of Texas, we know that so many incredible football players come from the state of Texas. It's certainly a hotbed for talent, and these are the two premier programs in the state, right? We Longhorns like to say, A&M is little brother, but it's certainly it's always going to be recruiting rivalries. It's always going to be, Texas is often going head to head against A&M. For players in the state of Texas. So yeah, I think this is great for college football. And to your point, it's this game means more this year, being back this year, not just the significance of the absence of 13 years, but the game being back, like you said, has more meaning than any other game this weekend, really. I mean, there's huge implications on the line. It certainly is it matters what happens in this game. This isn't just for state pride. This isn't just for family pride, right?
Which is
This
usually a
matters.
lot already.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I did want to share a picture, and I'm going to do this the old-fashioned way. I've got
Okay.
a little framed photo. So I say this is great. So that's my grandfather who passed just recently, a few months ago. What I do love about this game is that it involves family, right? I think it's really often that folks within your family have both Longhorns and Aggies. Kyle Umlang, one of the most famous guys for trolling on the Aggies, his dad is an Aggie. He went to Texas. His dad is an Aggie. For me, this has a special significance, special meaning, because your family's involved. You get to talk a little bit of trash talk at Thanksgiving time, and a little bit of poking the bear back and forth. But this has always felt like you keep it in the family. So yeah, I think it's got special significance, and I do think it's great for the sport that this game has finally returned.
All right. Question number 2. If you just joined us, we have 20 questions back and forth about anything about this rivalry. All right. My question to you, Megan: which team is under more pressure to win this game?
That's kind of a tough answer here. I think there's so many different scenarios that could happen with this. My gut feeling is that A&M is really under more pressure to win this game, only because Texas still has a path to the playoffs, even if they don't win. So I think the pressure comes off of Texas. This is back in Kyle Field. It's back. The rivalry's back. There's been a lot of jawing on both sides from both fan bases. So, but the implications for A&M are larger. If A&M does not win this game, there is a very high likelihood that they are left out of the playoffs altogether. Back to the tax
They're
player
out
bowl.
now. Their only path in, I would think, is beating Texas and then Georgia.
Right.
Yeah.
So if A&M wins this game, of course, that puts them in the SEC championship up against Georgia. I think there is still potential. An argument could be made that the number 2, the runner up in the SEC, deserves a spot in the playoffs, but that's where it's going to get real ticky
Not a
tacky.
3-loss runner up. I wouldn't.
I don't know. I think arguments could be made, especially when you're looking at head-to-head comparisons against other teams. But all that being said, at the end of the day, win the game, you're in the playoffs. And that's for either team. That's for either team. So I think it's really important obviously this is an important game for Texas. Texas wants to go in. The easiest path to the playoffs is to get in, win this game, win the SEC championship. You get that extra bye week there. But again, I think the implication here for Texas, at least, if Texas doesn't win this game, if something happens and Texas doesn't win this game, there's still a possibility Texas earns itself an extra week of rest as they watch the SEC championship, potentially get a home playoff game. So yeah, I certainly think more is on the line for A&M than Texas at this point, but it is important for both teams.
I agree. I can argue there's some things that are under more pressure. Like there's some legacy games here. Quinn Ewers, this is a legacy game going into College Station in that environment, and how well he has played on the road in big games, but how he struggled the last few weeks with inconsistency and turnovers and things. So I think this is huge. And being hobbled a bit, that could really impact his legacy. Big games for Jade Barron, good big game for Gunnar Helm, players that have really helped, the offensive line. What a legacy game for them to go in against this defensive front. So I would say there is a lot of pressure as far as what their legacy will be. But like you said, if something happens and Texas falls in this game by 3 or by 6 or within a possession, and they still find their way into a solid playoff round, they're not out of the playoffs. A 10-2 Texas that's been at the top 3 and 4 and 1, 3, 4, 5 ranking throughout the whole season, most of the season, they're still going to get respect from when you're going to compare them to 3 and 4 loss teams. So Texas still has an opportunity there. So hopefully, yeah, I would say I agree. Aggies are probably under more pressure to win this because this is their first chance to get close to the SEC championship game. All right. I have another question. I'll go next again. All right.
Bring it.
2-2. So what's your favorite Texas A&M memory that's not the actual game, like outside of the game?
Oh, man. I don't know. That's a tough one for me. I think, I don't know. This is probably a cheater's answer because this could be considered in the game a little bit. But if Ricky had not set the record for rushing during the game, he wouldn't have won the Heisman, in my opinion. So not in the game, I'd have to say Ricky winning the Heisman.
But related to that game. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think
answer.
the final, the cherry on the top for that Heisman campaign was during this game where Ricky broke the record. Didn't stand for very long. He broke the long-standing record, and then a few years later it was broken again. But I think without this game, without Ricky breaking the record against A&M in Austin, the Heisman wouldn't have been his. How about you?
Oh, I'm going to play that for you since you mentioned it.
11 yards shy of the record. Williams breaks a hole. Williams, hello record book. Ricky Williams runs to the Hall of Fame, cuts back. Ricky Williams, touchdown! 60 yards and the record is his. He does it.
When you need 11 and you get 60.
Listen, and a touchdown. And a touchdown. That to me was just
statement.
Yeah, I think that was just such a beautiful thing. And I remember, I mean, I was a kid. I was in high school at the time watching this. I was at DKR. I remember watching that run and going, we were all keenly aware. The whole stadium was aware exactly how many yards he needed to make it and to go through. And I just remember the stadium, DKR, erupting at that time and just absolutely, keep in mind, this was the Mac Brown era, right? This was when the come early, be loud, stay late, where Orange was just getting into the swing of things with Mac and with Ricky. So I remember DKR being louder than I had recalled in a very long time as a younger kid back in the day. So yeah, I think that's great. All right, CB, I got to pull this up. You disagree? You think that Ricky won the Heisman after his performance in Lincoln? Yeah, again, that was great. That was an incredible performance, and certainly, obviously, every performance that he had.
At that point, it was like his to lose.
Yeah,
and then he made the final statement that there's no one else that should have.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I feel like that run, breaking the record, that was really just the piece de resistance, right? Like that was the cherry on top of his Heisman campaign, and that's what pushed it over to leave no doubt that he was going to get the Heisman that year. How about you, Rocky? What are you thinking? What are you thinking?
My favorite memory is also around the game, but it's the Dicker the Kicker. That was Dicker the Kicker. Justin Tucker. Sorry, I'm looking at something else. Justin Tucker game. And it was watching that game with one of our friends who was visiting from Scotland, playing rugby with the rugby team, Richard's rugby team, and his name was Patty, and he's from Scotland. And so over the season, he'd really become like a Longhorn fan with us, going to games, like watching games, like really becoming a Longhorn fan. And he had a buddy visiting for Scotland, staying with us for the long holiday weekend. So we showed them Thanksgiving, we showed them turkey and stuffing and all the things, and we showed them football all day and the Texas Aggies at night. So his buddy, he talked up Texas Longhorns to his buddy all week. And then we sat there and watched Texas just losing to the Aggies, and then this craziness back and forth. And he's like, "This, y'all do all this drama and pain, and like, don't worry, don't quit on him, don't quit on our Longhorns." And then when Justin Tucker makes that kick, these two Scottish guys are like, "Woo!" losing their minds, like even more than us, seeing it through their eyes, like riding that emotional roller coaster when they're just brand new to this team and this sport. That I will always remember that when I think of the Justin Tucker kick. I think of the rugby guys that were there for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I love it. All right.
Give us a question, Megan.
Yeah. So
4.
I feel like this one's a pretty easy question, but maybe there's a little controversy behind it. Who do you think is the bigger rival for Texas? A&M, OU, other?
I would say OU for a long time, but it looks like maybe getting back into A&M being the number 1 rival again, because already these games have implications. I always said the OU rivalry mattered more because those games had implications. Those were
Sure.
seeding, in the college football. Well, back then it was, BCS rankings and all those things, and opportunities for big bowl, January 6th bowl, January 1st bowls and all that. Now, for a while, Aggie didn't affect that. Now, right off the bat, huge implications for the winner of this game. Who do you think's the biggest rival?
I'm still going to go with the Sooners, but I will put an asterisk by that because I think while it can change year to year, I mean, let me answer this. I think the Sooners overall have been a bigger threat to Texas, not only because of the fact that we've played them more consistently. We played them every year. We didn't have that hiatus after A&M left for the SEC like Texas did with A&M. The Sooners just at the end of the day have won more than A&M has. The Sooners were competing for national championships. They were competing, my God, how many conference championships did they have, right? Like it was always, and even in Texas's poor decade, the Sooners, the OU game was always, like you mentioned, had a ton of implications. It meant more. And beyond that, I mentioned this the other day. I believe I was talking with Ghost, our buddy Cord over at Ghost and Friends. To me, the Texas-Texas A&M rivalry has always been about family. It's within the state of Texas, right? At the end of the day, they're still Texans. And I kind of view them, we talk about the little brother thing. You give them a noogie and you say, I'm going to give my little brother a bunch of crap. But if anybody else talks crap about him, then maybe you defend him a little bit more.
Join in.
Yeah, right. But with the Sooners, to me, they're just dirty Sooners, right? They're from Oklahoma. Yeah. The states hate each other. There's no family feel at all at that point to me. So I'm going to say I think the Sooners are a bigger rival for Texas, but there are years, and this is one of them, when the Aggies actually hold up their end of the bargain, there are years just like this that the implications are a lot heavier. I don't think we expected OU to be as bad as they have been this year. And this, I might have a little bit different feelings at this point in the season if OU was performing better than they did this year. But like we were just talking about, there's so much on the line for this game right now. So yeah, all right, Jacob, I appreciate you, man. Yeah, 1A and 1B. Okay.
That's how I have OU for implications, A&M for the hatred. Love it. And thanks for listening and watching us, even though you're not a Longhorn fan. That's pretty awesome. All right, so let's fly. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm guessing that's my buddy. I think, Jacob, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't see your last name, but if you're Jacob B and you're my dirty Sooner buddy, I appreciate you, man. I really appreciate you chiming in. Yeah.
Love it. All right, so let's fly through some more questions. Go again. Go ahead and go again.
Oh, all right. Let's see. Okay, this isn't so much a question as a request. Say one nice thing about Texas A&M.
One of our buddies on Twitter had this question today to compliment the Aggies, and I wrote, "They keep coming back for more."
Yeah.
Something nice.
Yeah, look, I'm along that same thought.
They're committed to the thing, right?
Yeah. Oh, hey, yay! Look at that. I've got Jacobs all over the place. Jacobs that I love, and Jacobs that I appreciate you, man. Thanks for being.
He's our Aggie, so he knows the hatred. Thanks for
listening. Yeah, I appreciate you. We'd love your thoughts, Jacob, too. I mean, you're obviously a big part of this rivalry. So, look, I'm okay. Squirrel brain. Getting back to where we were.
Something nice about A&M.
Listen, it's along the same veins. We mentioned this in our show a couple of days ago. They're loyal as hell. Yep. I will give their fans credit that even in rough years, even when A&M doesn't live up to expectations, and not trying to be a jerk here, but that happens more often than not. A&M fans keep showing up. They keep donating. They keep showing up. They're loud. They're proud. And I respect that, man. Like you got to appreciate a fan base that through hell or high water, they're there supporting their team. And there's been a lot of hell for A&M. So
yeah, they're there. And
props to them.
they'll be breaking some attendance records this weekend for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, here's my question. We talk a lot this time of year about house divided, right? Like, oh, one's fan base, one's Michigan, one's Ohio State, one's this, one's that, one's Texas, one's Aggies. Would you ever marry an Aggie and have every Thanksgiving go back to being divided house?
Yeah, I think I mean, I've dated Aggies before. I will say this.
Or Sooner or whatever rival. Would you ever like marry them and have that all year long?
I mean, if they're exceptional, sure. And it would take an exceptional Aggie or Sooner for me to decide to tie that knot. But yeah, man, look, I've dated both Aggies and Sooners. I will say the Aggie that I dated, great guy. Our timing was just kind of off. But one thing that I'm proud of, I mean, he was real proud of his A&M. He had his A&M gear. When we started dating, his closet was very much full of maroon. And by the time our tenure was over, I would say there was more burnt orange in his closet than there was maroon. So I was proud of myself for that.
All right. My answer is I'm married to a Longhorn, and I couldn't do the drama of somebody barking in my ear every day about how my school sucks. All right. Okay, let's see. I'll go now. What is your favorite Aggie tradition?
Ooh. Can I go old school here for a minute?
Whatever is your favorite Aggie tradition.
I thought the bonfire was cool as hell. And we'll talk about this in a little bit. I might jump one of my questions up here, but back when the bonfire was going, I thought that was just a really cool tradition that was student led, and a bunch of people showed up, and it was just impressive. If you've ever seen the bonfire back when it was going, it was just an impressive thing. So I think that's just that was a really cool tradition that A&M had that I respect the hell out of and appreciate where it's at now. And going through that bonfire tragedy was a lot. It affected both sides, and certainly there's a lot of controversy around that. Should it come back? Should it not? But yeah, the bonfire tradition I thought was just really cool as hell. How about you?
I think their band is pretty awesome. I have to admit, they look like a machine. I think
yeah,
that's cool.
That's
Whether
precise.
they're all playing instruments, to do that formation, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's precise for sure.
Yes. All right. Now go again.
All right. So I'm going to ask you this: if you could take one A&M player, past or present, and have them play for Texas, if you could cherry pick one A&M player, past or present, and have them play for UT, who would it be?
Oh, as soon as you said that, the name escapes me. Von Miller.
Yeah. Played for the Broncos for a long time.
Yeah, the glasses. Yeah.
Yeah. Von Miller was awesome. I'd probably take Dat Win. I thought he was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm glad Texas doesn't have to play him anymore. I thought he would have fit into Texas's system really well at the time. So I like it. We both went defense. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Here's my next one. What position group this year and if you have questions, post them. And we see a couple here that we're marking, and we'll get to your questions too. What position group from the Aggies right now would you choose over Texas position, same group in 2024? Like if you had to pick their position group over Texas.
That's a tough one. Let me ask to clarify before I answer this. Are you talking about the current state of things right now? Like where we are with injuries?
If you could take this position group and swap them for the Aggies one. Which
I know, but are we including injuries at this point in time?
Yeah, like today, this week, going into the game,
right
if
now.
they could swap uniforms, who would you take?
Oh,
Saturday.
That's a tough one. I don't know how to answer this properly. I'm probably going to cop out and say special teams. I think A&M has done a good job with their special teams this year. Again, I'm not here to spread a whole lot of hate. I think A&M, Elko has done a great job stepping in, but A&M special teams have done some good things. And I think that's an area that Texas has been a little hit or miss this year. So, plunger to the head, like we like to say, instead of gun to the head, I'd probably take special teams for A&M. How about you?
I was going to say punter kicker.
All right.
Love Auburn. I just think like if you had to pick one group, I would say I guess it'd have to be kickers, because right now theirs are more consistent than Texas. Even though they had a couple of misses lately, overall they've been pretty consistent.
Sure.
All right. So let's see. If the Aggies win this Saturday, do they storm the field?
Yes, absolutely, hands down, zero question. I think A&M, again, there's a lot of pent up aggression. Jacob, we'd love to hear from you on your opinion on this. Do you think Texas, being an Aggie, do you think Texas A&M would storm the field? If it were Texas, I'd say no. Texas is not, if we were playing in Austin and Texas won, that's just not a thing Texas does. But given the state of the program, given where they're at, new head coach, finished 5-7 last year. Yeah, man, I think A&M storms Kyle Field.
A million billion %. And Carlos says, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
All right.
That's my feeling on it.
I agree. Next question. Go ahead.
All right. So this kind of goes back to something we talked a little bit about earlier. And this, again, this is a little touchy, so feel free to pass if you don't want to answer it. If you're A&M, should they bring the bonfire back?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those things that I'm not even someone who can have an opinion on that. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's so personal to their campus and their history and their university. If they bring it back, I'll know that a group of people made a great decision. If they don't bring it back, I'll know a group of people made a great decision. I'm so understand my place in that conversation. I have no thoughts either way on that.
I would default to the parents of the students that were taken on that 99 bonfire collapse. I have feelings on it. Like I said, I think it was one of the coolest traditions that A&M did, but there's still some heavy feelings involved with that. So I love the answer, Rocky. So let me ask this caveat. Let me tack on to that then. And this is a place that we do have because we are in the Burnt Orange. Back in the day, Texas used to do a Hex rally. A&M had the bonfire, Texas had the Hex rally. So would you, and that went wayside. They tried bringing it on after A&M left for the SEC. They tried the Hex rally. They turned it into the candlelight rally for a little bit.
Right.
And then, the tiki torches had a bit of a connotation. Is a Hex rally something that Texas should do?
I don't know. Go play the game. None of that.
Forget the juju. Forget the
Hex rally is the same as practicing your yells at midnight. It's just silliness that doesn't affect the game. Standing around with lights and torches and hexing them. That's just the same as going whoop at midnight. Like it doesn't affect what happens on the X's and O's between the 20s and 20s. It doesn't affect it.
Where's your school spirit?
It doesn't affect the game.
You're killing me. Hey, Jacob, thanks again. We appreciate you chiming in. Yes, there is a non-affiliated bonfire, a much smaller bonfire that is off campus, if I'm correct, right, Jacob? It's off campus, and A&M is not directly involved with that. Again, cool tradition, man. I think that's a really cool thing that A&M did. And again, Carlos, the Hex rally was something when I was at Texas, we would do that. It was the Wednesday before, you'd get red candles, you'd go down and you'd put a Hex on A&M. It was a pep rally for all intents and purposes. So yeah, we would go down and have a good time there. So that was a lot of fun for sure. So,
all right, we have 8 questions left. Let's try to fly through them so we can get to college football, more of college football talk. All right. What's your favorite memory in the game?
It's got to be the last game that we were there, Tuck kicking to win. I was the lone Longhorn in a group of Aggies. I was with an Aggie buddy of mine. And somehow, some way, we got on Kyle Field after the game. So I have pictures of me on Kyle Field. I actually took a little piece of the grass with me, a little chunk of turf with me to commemorate that last game. So for me, that would be it. The Tucker kick and then partying on Kyle Field somehow, some way after the game. How about you?
Mine is actually the play before that, the bumbling, ping-ponging, ding-donging Case McCoy down the field, which not only, but completely reminded us of when Colt McCoy ding-donged all the way down the field the same way. But Case McCoy, of all people, beat OU and beat A&M and just managed the game and had enough and was schemed with the great talent around him. And I just will always remember that little ping pong ding dong beat out, pushed around. And how did they not strip the ball from Case McCoy? He's 80 pounds. How did they not strip the ball from him? But anyway, we always got to put respect on Case McCoy's name because he did a good job there. The last game, the Aggies were big favorites in that game too. Everything just should have gotten. They were up big and. Love it. Anyway, that's my favorite in-game memory as well. Same game, just the play before. Yeah. All right, cool. You go ahead next if you're ready.
I was going to say, should this game be played on Thanksgiving, actual Thanksgiving Day on Thursday, as back in the day?
Yeah,
I'm right there with you, man. I feel like part of the tradition of football in the state of Texas is for me at least, it was watching the Lions, watching the Cowboys, and then going to the Texas A&M game. So I would love to see it come back on Thursday, but we'll see if that happens. We'll see if that happens.
All right. What Texas player surprisingly made a big name for themselves in this game, as opposed to somebody we knew was going to come in and ball out? What player just shocked us and made a big name for themselves?
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to steal your answer here, but I think Case was the surprise player of that game. I mean, Case, and don't get me wrong, we know how much we all love Colt McCoy. We know what Colt did. Case was a good quarterback, but especially with that McCoy name, there were a lot of expectations for how he would perform and what he did. And I think it's fair to say he didn't quite live up to his brother's accomplishments. Yeah, CB, man, I'm right there with you. Case McCoy coming in and beating the tar out of A&M, like you mentioned, coming back from a being down, beating OU the same year when Texas wasn't anything particularly insane.
Mm-hmm.
Man, he made himself a legend. Like, he's not going to be remembered for his stats or blowing the doors off of most people, but Case McCoy will always be a legend for that game. What are your thoughts?
I'm going to also, of course, Case, but I'm going to flip it a little bit and say Tannehill, because Tannehill, who I've had to live with, now he's gone, but with the Titans forever, he's the one who threw all those catches to Texas defense. I think he was supposed to have played much better in that game. And thank goodness he was terrible in that game, because I think he threw the ball more to Texas DBs than to his own receivers. Yes, Case McCoy and Ryan Tannehill. Oh man, why was he ever? All right, go ahead. We have a couple more. You go.
Couple more. Yeah, real quick. Given the most recent news of Mac Brown not being with North Carolina anymore, is he going to be at the game? You think Mac Brown shows up?
No, I think he is still coaching this Saturday. Their game again, they have a rivalry with NC State. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I think he's still going to coach that. There's just they don't know yet if he's going to coach through the bowl game.
Right.
So no, he'll be at his game, I hope.
Yeah, right. Yeah, something's gone horribly wrong. All right, go ahead.
All right, we have 4 more. This is our 20 questions. Anything about Texas A&M rivalry? What does it mean to you that the Aggies moved Senior Day from this big, massive event of a game Saturday, which is the last home game of the season, which is always when Senior Day happens? What does it mean to you that they moved it to a couple weeks ago, New Mexico State game?
Yeah, we've talked about this on a couple of shows before, so I'll answer quickly. I think I get why they did it. You don't want a distraction. Okay, fine. It feels like a cop-out to me. If you're going to be confident, say it with your chest. You know what I mean? You've got home field advantage. You're Texas A&M. This is in College Station. You should have no problem playing your rival on Senior Day, the last game of the season. I think it's kind of a cop-out to move it up one game. How about you?
I agree. It looks a little scared. It looks a little nervousness. All right. Go ahead.
Lightning answer here. Better mascot, Reveille or Bevo?
That's not even a question.
Listen, I think Reveille is probably one of the best dog mascots out there, but I got to say Bevo hands down, man. Bevo's amazing. And barreling out.
How do you top him? Yeah. Okay. Cool. CB, I'm glad you're on the show today, because I'm actually using one of your tweets for my last question of our 20 questions. You had this thing, the Aggie said, they have listing their traditions. One of the Aggies, they have Ags in maroon, this and that. Mo Bamba pumping on third downs. And I love that you just put Mo Bamba. How do they not see the irony that the name is a Longhorn, right? Other schools play it, it's fun, but when you're the hated rival of the Longhorns, and you're proud that one of your traditions is playing now Mo Bamba about a Texas Longhorn. Would the Longhorns ever play a song that was called Johnny Manziel?
That's the exact same thing I was going to ask. Listen, that would never happen at Texas. I don't care how much of a banger it is. We're not playing anything that talks about Johnny Manziel that glorifies him being there. So look, I love it. I feel like this is one of those things where, we always talk about Aggie jokes and they write themselves. To me, that's one of them. Again, other people using it doesn't bother me. Yeah, it is hype, man. You gotta
It's
love
hype,
Obama.
but there's so many other hype songs. I agree, it's hype. There's so many other hype songs that are not named after your rivals, one of your rivals, alumni, not alumni, but former players.
Yeah. All right. So
Okay,
last
did
question
you
I
do all
have.
your 20? You have one more, right?
One more. Yeah. Last question I
Okay.
have. I want you to envision two scenarios. One
Mm,
scenario, Texas wins. One scenario, A&M wins.
mm.
Who's the crazier fan base? Who acts
After
the
that
most
happens,
foolish? If in either of those scenarios,
oh,
put
the
them side by
Aggies
side.
for sure. The Aggies for sure.
I
It will be
appreciate
an epic meltdown if they lose. It will be an epic meltdown if they win. Um, yeah, I think they have some tweets probably ready to hit send. They probably have lots of bookmarks. I'm sure they've bookmarked a whole folder of tweets where anytime someone said Texas might win that game.
That's
Yeah,
absolutely
I
fair.
think and rightfully so. There would be a big upset, but they're at home. Like this is their big vaunted home crazy environment. So yes, both will go crazy. Texas will be see how easy it is to fly to the SEC and get to the SEC championship. We heard this was the gauntlet, and they one loss in their first
We're
year. Trust me, big old heads, and it'll
yeah.
be me. And then I'm pointing at myself. Big
Hi,
head.
it's me. I'm the
It's me.
problem.
I'm
It's
big
me.
head. Yeah. All right.
All right.
Okay. So we're so silly. All right. So we will get into our predictions for the Texas A&M game on Saturday night. Some matchups we're looking for, keys to a win for each team. But let's first look at the broader pictures of the. Let's first look at the broader picture. Let's look at the new college football rankings and see kind of where things are happening now. This is the latest college football playoff rankings from the selection committee. They have their, all this stuff. Some movement with Alabama losing and Notre Dame still flying up there. The Longhorns are up, still at number 3. Oregon, anything there shocking with you that you see? Everything makes sense, or something too high, too low?
Yeah, look, I think Boise's getting a lot of love. I respect them, but I think they're getting a lot of love for being where they are. We brought this up before. I think it's interesting that Penn State is still hanging around that number 4 position. We had the conversation about Indiana. Did they deserve to be as highly ranked as they were? They took a proper butt whooping against Ohio State, as a lot of people anticipated. But I got to put Penn State under the same level of scrutiny. Who have they really played to be up at number 4? Now, I know there's a lot of arguments about Texas's strength of schedule. Does Texas deserve to be there? And I do understand there is some argument to be made. You play who you've got on your schedule, right? But Penn State surprises me a little bit still. And then SMU, man, shout out to the Smoo Ponies for being up in the top 10. First time in, been a while for them. So how about you? Do you have any surprises?
Penn State has the 4th best resume per ESPN.
Right.
I don't know. Let's see. BYU still hanging in there, even though they're taking some losses. A&M dropped to 20. That seems fair. I like the South Carolina is getting some love now because they have they're playing well. Arizona State moving up. It's going to be good. Let's see. Let's get into the games now. What we have. Let me stop that. All right, let's get into the games now. So the college football bracket would look something like this right now. Let me share it. I like to have the whole picture taken, the whole page, so you don't have to see all my stuff. All right, so the college football bracket looks like this right now. We know the first rounds have the first 4 teams, highest 4 teams, highest conference champions get that bye. The other 5 through 8 will host games. Hosting 9 through 12 will go 2, 5 through 8. And then you have the quarterfinals. If Texas has this 2 seed, there is no home playoff game for Texas. They sit the buyout and then they go to either Fiesta, Rose, Peach, or Sugar Bowls, right? December 31st or January 1st. Woohoo! All right. So which of these look, so if Texas right now, look how cool that would be if Notre Dame and SMU played each other, and then Texas would get one of those. The way it stands now, of course, things will all change. Texas would be in the semifinals pretty much.
Yeah, look, I think it's interesting. I think looking at this, the argument that I would have to make once again, sorry, Boise, again, y'all are doing some great things at running back, but it seems to me that Boise kind of stands out to me as the one that, one of these things is not like the other. I think that would be a lopsided
They're
game.
still winning.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any world that the Sun Devils surprise or shock the Buckeyes here. So, and same thing, Ohio State up against Boise just doesn't seem like a fair matchup in my mind. But yeah, I mean, to that point, that's why they play the game, right? There can be surprises, there can be upsets. But I like the way that this pans out for Texas. I think that both of those matchups, whether Texas would play SMU or Notre Dame, I think both of those match up favorably with the Longhorns. Again, we'll talk about this a little bit more as we dive into the comparisons and get farther into Texas. But I think that Texas defense stands a real good chance against either of those teams. So certainly wouldn't hate it. And what I do love about this is predicting that Texas beats A&M and wins the SEC championship. So gotta appreciate that subtle nod to Texas there too.
Yeah, and beats Georgia in the rematch. They have the two SEC teams eliminating each other with just Texas as the third SEC team. One of those having to go to Oregon. That's a terrible. You don't want to be 8 or 9. And then they have two ACC teams, which they haven't had yet. They're giving a lot of respect to SMU, probably saying they're going to go toe-to-toe with Miami in the conference championship. So that should be interesting. Lots of Big 12, Big 10 representation there too. All right, so let's look at it. It is rivalry week. This is hate week, right? So let's look at some of the games that we have this weekend. So there's games again, still almost every day. Friday, there's the games. The rivalry hate starts Thursday, Friday. A lot of NFL on Thursday. Friday, the biggest one I think will be Oklahoma State at Colorado. Mississippi State goes to Ole Miss. That should be interesting. Ole Miss off that loss. Mississippi State hasn't won anything in the SEC, so whatever. Georgia Tech goes to Georgia, so Georgia Tech has an opportunity to do something funny, but Georgia's still in this SEC championship game because that is not a conference game. Right. All right, let's look at this one. Saturday, lots of rivalries. We'll fly through them quickly. Michigan 6-5, wah, wah. They're going to Ohio State. Ohio State are 3 touchdown favorites. Does Michigan have any chance 11 a.m. on Fox to shock the world here?
On paper, no. Michigan certainly hasn't been the team, anything close to the shadow of a team of what we saw last year. But that being said, this is one of the best rivalries. If not, man, I got to give Texas OU rivalry a better, just a little bit of an edge over Michigan and Ohio State, but not by much, right? I think I'd take Texas OU just because of the atmosphere being that halfway through at the State Fair in Dallas. But don't underestimate how much these teams hate each other. I love that anybody in Ohio, like grown ass men, are not using the capital letter M in any of their professional emails or correspondence this week because of the hatred between these two teams. So does Michigan have a chance in hell? I don't know. I think on paper you'd have to say no. But stranger things have happened, right? Charlie Strong beat OU. So I don't know. I'd like to say I hope that Michigan at least makes it interesting, gives Ohio State a bit of a run for their money. But I don't know. What are you thinking about that money line there? That 2 or 3 touchdown favorites for Ohio State?
Yeah. So we know that Ohio State has their 1 loss to Oregon. If they lose this game and Indiana has still only 1 loss and Ohio State takes a 2nd loss in conference, that would put Indiana in the Big 10 championship game against Oregon. Oregon has Washington, they're big favorites too. So the all of Indiana is rooting for Michigan to beat Ohio State because Ohio State is at home. Michigan's trash. Ohio State will outscore them. 21 seems big because it's a rivalry game. But in this case, I'm going to give it to them. Ohio State by 21.
All right. Fair enough.
Sure. All right. Number 8, Tennessee goes to Vanderbilt. They're 10-point favorites. Vanderbilt struggling. Pavia, is he healthy still? We don't know, but that's happening. Let's pick this one because this is a good rivalry game. South Carolina. I've told the story before about why I like the ass-kicking chickens over Clemson. Number 15, South Carolina goes to 12. Clemson, big rivalry. Heated state of South Carolina rivalry, 11 a.m. South Carolina on a 5-game win streak. Clemson, it looks like their best win is probably 7-3 Pitt. Who do you have in this game? Clemson are 2.5-point favorites at home. Sorry.
I'm going to call upset alert if we can call it that. I'm taking South Carolina in this game. I really like the streak that they're on right now. I think they've got themselves a really good football program, and I think they've been overlooked in the SEC. Dabo, to me, I've never been overwhelmed with him. Nothing's changed for me this year with that. So yeah, I think South Carolina comes in. They've got a fire lit, and I'm taking South Carolina. Give me the Cox all day, any day.
Did you hear that, guys?
Rocky, what are you thinking?
All right, I'm with Carlos. Give me the Cox. Beamer Ball, South Carolina. They are on a roll. They're one of the hottest teams in the country right now. They found their rhythm. They found their offense. Their defense is dominating. So I'm going South Carolina to win 10 or more. Clemson is sketchy. They're up and down. They have gotten some offense going, but not against great competition. I think South Carolina rolls at Clemson. All right. Maryland goes to Penn State. Penn State survived, but they're still number 4. This one's interesting only because it has playoff implications. Number 5, Notre Dame goes to at USC, 6-5 USC. Notre Dame only that one horrible loss at home. Notre Dame are touchdown favorites in LA. What you got?
Woo! As much as I'd like to see Lincoln Riley do something really funny, sorry, Kevin Dunn, we know you're a Notre Dame guy. I still got to think that Notre Dame comes out on top of this one. I think this is going to be the history of this game's a lot of fun. Notre Dame and USC has produced some really fun games, some really great games. But I just think Notre Dame is too much for this current Lincoln Riley team. I'm taking Notre Dame in this one.
All right. So I'll be in LA this weekend. My daughter's playing rugby. And for half a second, I thought, oh, can I get up to that game? I can't. But it's still pretty cool. Let me go hop up to the Rose Bowl real quick. I can't. I know time. All right. Carlos says Notre Dame covers. Yeah, I could see that. Strong performance. Maybe they cover at the end. Miami and Syracuse should be interesting. That's a chance for an upset to get them out of the that would be a chance to get them out of that conference championship. If Clemson wins and SMU wins, they have Cal. They should be fine. Let's talk Iron Bowl. Is it the Iron Bowl? Auburn, Alabama. Is that what it's called? The Iron Bowl.
Yes.
All right. 5-6 Auburn off the huge 4 overtime win against the Aggies. They get Alabama, who's off a terrible loss at OU. Alabama's still 11.5-point favorites. They're at home. Alabama 8-3. Alabama. Ooh, are they going to be 8-4, Megan?
Ooh, I don't know. As much as I'd like to see those Tigers do, and again, let's be very clear, it's the Tigers, not the Tigers, for this one. Yeah, I don't know, man. Armando, I'd love to agree with you. I'd love to agree with you on this one, but I got to take the Tide. I think the Tide's coming off such an embarrassing loss. I think they've got a chip on their shoulder, and I do think DeBoer is a good coach. I think he gets his team together enough to go in and play well. And again, it's in Tuscaloosa. I think that's going to be that's a big ask for Auburn to come in at 2:30 in Tuscaloosa and win that game. I'm taking the Tide. I don't know that I feel confident about that 11.5-point spread. I think Auburn probably covers, but I'm going to take the Tide to win this one.
It's so tough in rivalries to have big wins, and rivalries are usually pretty heated. Auburn, I think if Auburn had just dominated the Aggies and pulled away, that would be something. But we saw their kicking issues. We saw their struggling to move the ball for most of the game. When it mattered most, they got it done. But going into 4 overtimes is exhausting mentally, physically, and then going into a heated rival the next week. I'm also going to say Alabama wins this game at home. They need to show some kind of pride, but their offense has been figured out. And I think Auburn has enough defense to keep it close. So, I'll say Alabama wins. And, Alabama lost their middle linebacker, Lawson. So Auburn should run the ball. Auburn had a great success running right up the middle on the Aggies a lot.
They did.
All right.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting matchup for sure.
All right, so we don't need to pick this. NC State is at North Carolina. We only mentioned it because we said Mac Brown was fired, and he should still be coaching that game is what I heard. All right, this is an ugly game. Florida at Florida State. And like I said a couple weeks ago, Florida was going to beat Ole Miss, and they're going to be bowl eligible, and they're going to finish the season 7-5 because they are beating Florida State. They just have wins over 22 LSU and number 9 Ole Miss. FSU has a 5-point win over Cal and a win over Charleston Southern. That's their 2 wins. They are 2-9. Florida, 2 touchdown favorites at Florida State. What do you think?
Yeah. Florida wins, Florida covers. I think, like we mentioned, Florida's getting hot at the right time. They're doing all the right things. Lagway is looking really good. He's showing a lot of progress from his injury. So yeah, I think they go in and just absolutely beat the brakes off of the Seminoles. I don't see how this stays close at all. I think the Gators put the chomp on.
Yeah, I agree. Florida by 3 touchdowns, probably. Gators cover easy. Yeah. I think a lot of people are seeing the confidence and momentum that Florida has, which is the exact momentum that Florida State has right now. I don't know how Florida State still has commits right now.
Yeah, exact opposite of it. Yeah, for sure.
Trajectories are like, all right. Oklahoma, huge 24-3 dominating win over Alabama, but their only conference wins are Auburn and Alabama. So does Oklahoma now have to own Alabama? Like, do they want
state?
State, they won the state of Alabama. LSU, 3-game losses at the Aggies versus Alabama and at Florida. But then they got one back against Vanderbilt, but only by 7 points. This game is at LSU. Does Oklahoma have enough offense to put it on LSU's broken, beat-up defense? LSU's favored by 6.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point. There's a lot of questions surrounding LSU's defense right now, but at the end of the day, I think OU kind of blew their load against Bama. I don't know that they've got much juice left in the tank. I'm taking LSU, especially because it's, again, I'm a big surroundings and environment person. I think the Tigers are going to come in here amped up. Again, it's a night game at Death Valley. I'm taking LSU in this one. I think they cover the 6.
I agree. I don't know if they blew their load, but I think Oklahoma had a defensive answer for Milroe, right? Really contained Milroe. What's his quarterback's name? Nussmeier. At one point, what was his name? At one point, he was one of the best quarterbacks.
Nussmeier, yeah.
Yeah, one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, and then hit a wall against the Aggies defense. Since then, it's been a struggle, but I think they will find enough to take on Oklahoma, because still at the end of the day, the Oklahoma quarterback's not throwing the ball. Jackson Arnold threw for 58 something yards the other day. That's not going to get it done on the road. That's too one-dimensional. So I'm going to say LSU has just enough. 6, maybe.
Yeah. All right, Armando. It looks like we're on the opposite ends here, man. I like it. I appreciate the input. Appreciate your thoughts. You're still wrong though.
He's got LSU winning the game. Isn't that what you said?
No, he's got. Oh yeah. I have LSU winning by a lot.
Yeah.
All right. We're agreed. It's the no that threw me off. It's the no that threw me off. All right, buddy. We don't have to fight.
LSU by 10. And you're right, Armando. Florida SC and South Carolina and Kansas are playing their best ball right now. All right. So we'll pick the Aggies game. Texas and A&M game in just a minute. Last one we'll talk about, just to mention it. 24 Kansas State goes to 18 Iowa State. Right now, the Big 12 is wide open. They're all beating each other up. Iowa State have that field goal, 2.5 point-ish favorites at home. Does Kansas State have anything left to take on Iowa State at home?
I think Kansas State's been one of those teams that's been so up or down this year. It is hard to predict where they're going to be. Once again, I'm going to give the environment the edge here. I like the Cyclones in this one. I'm taking Iowa State. I think because it's a 2.5 point spread here, I think they cover that, but not by much. I think we're talking 6, maybe 7 points. But I'm taking the Cyclones here.
I'm with Iowa State also as well, but field goal game. Like, it's probably going to be, they're going to take the football back, these teams. All right, let's get it back into Texas talk with Texas A&M. Huge rivalry, rivalry restored. You mentioned, CB, that LHN doc on the rivalry was awesome. I think you were trying to say awesome. And we have it for you. We don't have the whole documentary. We have a pretty cool they put out like a little minute or so promo for this, and I want to share it with you because I got it right here. Let's watch the promo for the rivalry renewed, put out by.
You can't talk about collegiate sports in Texas without talking about Texas and Texas A&M.
I think it's the best rivalry in the country because it's all about the state of Texas.
When it comes to this game and when it comes to this rivalry, it matters.
Most Longhorn fans would rather eat cyanide than put on an Aggies jersey, and vice versa, and rightfully so.
To describe this rivalry, you almost have to live in it. Texas and Texas A&M, there's everything you can imagine that would make a rivalry rich.
History going all the way back to over a century.
They played 118 times. One moment
could create your legacy and make you certainly a Longhorn hero for the rest of your life.
Williams breaks a hole. Williams, hello record book. Ricky Williams runs to the Hall of Fame.
Whatever you do in the Texas A&M game, it lives on.
As we're lining up the kick, we know that everything's on the line here. We've got to make it.
Justin's kick is good. It's good.
Their stadium got real quiet. That was pretty cool.
And Texas had bragging rights forever, or at least until 2024.
Without Texas A&M, college football is not complete. It's missing a piece. College football, congratulations, you are complete once again.
You can tell any story about the Aggies or about Texas without talking about the other school. There's no Harry Potter without a Voldemort, and I think there's no Texas without the Aggies.
Woo, does that make you want to run through a brick wall and punch people and kick children? And
Man, I love Ricky Williams for calling A&M Voldemort. Like that to me just makes my heart happy. I cracked up on that line. Yeah, look, I think this is, like we mentioned at the top of the program, football is better and for this rivalry being back. Again, the state of Texas, huge hotbed for talent. And nothing's better than that family rivalry between Texans of Texas versus Texas A&M. I think there's a lot of been talked about. The guys in the game right now, they're not familiar with the hatred. They're not familiar with how intense this rivalry can be and how much it means. So I don't think it's going to take too long for everybody to figure it back out and for this rivalry to be back to the fever pitch that it was at previously, 13 years ago. I think that will come back very quickly. But yeah, man, I think it's really exciting. It's fun to be there. We needed a cooling off period after the divorce. I think you need a little bit of space. There was a time that I wasn't sure I wanted this rivalry to come back. But I got to tell you, now that it's here, now that it's back, now that Texas is in the SEC and we're playing for actually something, not just pride, but there's a lot on the line here. Oh, I'm amped. I'm so amped this year for this.
There's a lot. So let's take it back to where, like you just said, the divorce, how the divorce went. Doc Allen on Twitter posted this. It was the last, 12 games or so. Texas had won 9 of course, we can nitpick sections of the history that look better, but that looks pretty good. Most of the people in our, adult life, we have pretty solid history against the Longhorns. Against the Aggies, even though we haven't played them in 13 years, 9 of the last 12 or so, Texas came out on top, including ones at the so intimidating, so loud, so crazy College Station, Kyle Field.
Yes, I will say this. Listen, Kyle Field has always been a loud and hard place to play, especially for Texas. But this is not the same Kyle Field that we remember as Texas fans. Keep in mind, they went under a massive renovation. They've trapped in a lot of that noise. They've built it up.
20,000 more seats.
Added 20,000 more seats. This is going to be the hardest environment that Texas has gone in and played at. Yes, Michigan, the big house seat, there was over 111,000 there at that game. They were crammed in, but that was an early game, early in the morning. Michigan's fans were out of it early. Texas came in and dominated. That's not to say that if Texas shows up and absolutely shuts down the Aggies early, Kyle Field will get quiet earlier, but it won't stay quiet. I don't care how the game is going there. That is going to be a hard place to play, that environment. Those fans are going to be pumped and ready to go. They're going to be keeping it noisy. They're going to be keeping it raucous. It's going to be a crazy environment. And I hope Texas is ready for that. I really do.
All right. So Chad Hastings, radio guy, Aggie guy, he said that of the 10 most attended games at Kyle Field, like just record breaking, the 10 most attended games in their hostile, crazy, dangerous, wild environment, they are 5-5. So is it really that intimidating and 12th man overtaking everything?
Look, it's a different thing though. Again, Texas A&M is different. That it just hits different, man.
All right. So, and it's only been 10 times in the history of this game where both teams were ranked. Isn't that wild? That only 10 times and they've played over 100.
I feel like that's one of those stats where, as a Texas fan, for like a split second, you go, oh, that's kind of weird. But then you think about it and you're like, no, Aggies have kind of not been great through. I mean, Texas
Or
leads
Texas,
this.
they've been good when Texas wasn't, and Texas
Yeah, but
been good when they weren't. For both to be good at the same time, I guess it's not very common.
No, it's not common. And again, you
Yeah.
see those pendulum swings for sure. But again, Texas leads this rivalry. What is it, 75-37, something like that? And
76, 37.
CB, yeah, CB, you'll be there. You'll correct me. I'm terrible pulling numbers off the top of my head. But I mean, Texas has almost a double, almost doubles the wins over A&M in this one. So because of that stat, because there is such a big difference, while I initially go, gosh, yeah, that feels kind of weird, that kind of unusual that Texas and Texas A&M haven't been ranked as often as you would think. I look at the, you look at the stat line and go, oh, maybe that's the case. But let me say this. We've talked about this on the show before. This is a different day and age. NIL, transfer portals, it changes a lot of the dynamic. Texas is still recruiting well. We know that. Sark is pulling in guys. He does really well in the portal. But again, to Elko's credit, he's done a good job. He held on to some of Jimbo's talent that he had there, brought in some guys, but he's doing his own thing. He's building his stuff, and there is a lot of potential for A&M. You don't have to wait quite as long as you used to develop when you can get players from the portal. So there's some good opportunity here for more parity between these two teams. So I think this rivalry is going to be a lot of fun. I think you're going to see a lot closer games than we did in the past with those, lopsided victories one way or the other. But yeah, I'm excited for it to be back.
All right, so let's start with when the game is happening, because we all know it is Saturday night at 6:30 p.m. in College Station. It's on ABC. It is now officially called the Cotton Holdings Lone Star Showdown. Know that's Connor Wiegman's dad's company, like their business, his business that he works with, or owns. I don't know. Connor Wiegman's family bought the Lone Star Showdown name.
I mean, good for them, but yeah, I'm not calling it that. It's Lone Star Showdown. I'm fine with, but I'm not calling it the Cotton Holdings Lone Star. I don't call it the AT&T Red River Shootout or Red River Rivalry or whatever the hell. I couldn't even tell you who's sponsoring that at this point. But yeah, look, I mean, good for them. Glad you have the money, but nah, not my thing.
All right. So we touched on this a little bit when we went live Monday night. But Texas A&M versus Texas this Saturday. It's not just the most expensive college football ticket of the year or ever. It's the most expensive football ticket, regular season football ticket, NFL or college on record. The get-in price, this was a couple days ago, I saw another report that the price has gone up even more. $741 just to get in. Average price $1,000 for a ticket. Whew, crazy. Everybody wants to be in that stadium to see it for themselves.
Do you think this is going to sustain at those kind of prices for this rivalry, or do you think that'll taper off after a few years?
I think if something is on the line still for every game, if something is still on the line, like this game, something's on the line, right? It's massive. Well, everybody wants to be in the first one back, right? But after this, I think it's going to be, is there something on the line? Does it matter who wins? Are both teams good? Is it going to be a great matchup? Yeah, people will want to see that, right?
Yeah, I think next year is going to be just as bonkers because it'll be the first year back in Austin. But yeah, I think it's going to depend a little bit after that. It's still going to be crazy. I think that just in general, college football tickets have gotten insane and out of control price wise. But yeah, definitely going to be exciting. Definitely going to be crazy.
All right. So we got to share this, Megan. This is just a little side note. These are some cool picks you took. You went, like you said, you went on the field after that Justin Tucker kick.
This would never, ever happen in today's day and age. It absolutely wouldn't. I couldn't even tell you how the hell we ended up on the field. Like I said, I was with my good buddy, Chris. Appreciate him for being there with me as I was the only dot of burnt orange in that sea of Aggies. But yeah, we ended up on Kyle Field and I took a little piece of it home. Never again will I think that happens. So I appreciate those pictures. I appreciate the cherished memories. Hopefully we keep it kind of crazy. See, and let me tell you, this is how you do it. No horns down. It's thumbs up, right? You gig them, you hook them. That's how you do it. I appreciate the core member here.
Well, also because he's in full uniform, so he might get in trouble. I don't know.
They'll put the horns down. I have no doubt this year.
Oh, I'm sure it's going to get crazy. All right. So you said we talked about this wild stadium, 12th man, that they're so loud. Decibels are going to be, recording records. But how come they need to bring in speakers? Speakers have been added for the field to the field level for the first time this season. They tested them in the last game. Was it New Mexico State or something? They tested them, and they're going to use them at the Texas game. Sark was asked about this in the press conference, and he said, well, just make sure the refs know that they have to turn it off before, the play starts or whatever. What do you think about that? About this speakers, that they brought in speakers?
I'm going to choose my words carefully here. No, I'm not. I think it's a bitch move. I appreciate that you want to go in and you want to have give yourself the biggest advantage that you possibly can, make it a loud and rowdy environment. But to me, bringing in speakers to pump in sound, especially when you talk about how crazy Kyle Field is, what a insane atmosphere it is. And again, I'm not taking that away from A&M. I literally just finished saying Kyle Field is a hard place to play, especially at night, especially bringing back the rivalry. I don't see the point. To me, it kind of diminishes the power of your crowd to have to bring in speakers to amplify the band, quote unquote. Now, again, there are rules. The SEC does have rules in place. After a certain point, as soon as the center puts their hand on the ball, those speakers can no longer be used. The band has to stop playing. The speakers can no longer be used to amplify sound. So we'll see. I don't know, Rocky, you think they're going to adhere to those rules, or do you think they risk it and maybe push it a little bit?
I mean, they never lie, cheat, steal, whatever. So I don't know.
Yeah. Not a huge fan of the speakers myself. I didn't like it when Texas did it. So there were a few years ago when they had the band in a different place, and the south end zone was still undergoing construction. They did amplify Texas's band, and I hate it. I didn't like it. I thought having that just a little bit, that half-second delay between hearing the band and then, of course, the drum line and all that, it just doesn't sound good, man. If the true purpose of bringing it in is to amplify the band itself, I don't think you need to do that. I think it makes them sound worse than better. Your band should sound good on its own. Again, man, it's the fighting Aggie band. You guys are loud. You guys are proud. I don't see the point in bringing the speakers in, but that's all right. That's all right. Any advantage, right?
All right. So let's start looking into this matchup. It's a big one. We love our buddy Stats of War. Want to give him credit for putting these stats out. All right. So this is the matchup with Texas at Texas A&M. Anything really stand out? Win probability, pretty much 2-1 odds that Texas wins this game. He has the score 26-21-ish. Right at that 6-point spread, 5-point spread. Thank you.
No, this feels about right to me. Again, I think this is going to be one of those games where, environment will matter. How these teams get off to a start is going to matter. But looking at the matchups here, and we'll dive into this here in just a second, but looking at the matchups here, yeah, this feels about right. Texas on defense has been really strong throughout the whole season, and I think it's a good matchup against A&M. There's still some questions with A&M is how is their quarterback going to perform? How is their running back going to look? There's a lot of questions here. So, yeah, factoring in crowd noise, factoring in that night game at Kyle Field, factoring in emotions and the rivalry being back, but looking at the talent level too, yeah, this feels about right to me. This feels about right. Is there anything that stands out to you as unusual or a little surprising?
Third down, fourth down success. Let's talk about the comparison of the team. When I'm looking at Aggie's third down offense, ESPN has their offense ranked number 22 in third down efficiency, third down conversions, and Texas is at 30. So I was surprised to see that they're actually converting third downs at a pretty high rate. The one thing that can counter that is Texas has as the 9th best third down defense, and they have the 26th best third down defense. So they're pretty matched there. So third downs are going to be really key. Who can sustain drives and who gets off the field? That's going to be huge in this game. Sustaining drives is going to really matter.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, I think it's going to be important for momentum is going to play a role in this game. I know people don't like it. I know a lot of the analysts will say, oh, momentum isn't a thing in football. I call bullshit. I really think it is, especially in a rivalry game like this, where there are two teams that matter a lot, that care a lot, that the environment's going to be crazy. Either team getting up early and sustaining that lead is going to be really important. Yes, things can go back and forth, but I think some of the keys to the game, we'll dive into this a little bit more, but I've got to say this now. I think it's really important to get the ball early, get the ball and sustain drives, to your point. Have success on first and second down. Don't put yourself in those long third down positions, because like you mentioned, these teams match up really evenly on third down conversions. That's going to be a make or break stat in this game. I really believe that.
All right. So another thing that we've talked about this every week, the last few weeks, it feels like controlling the ball as far as possessions and not turning the ball over. Fumbles have been an issue. Texas has been able to, last week, they were able to knock a few, but they couldn't secure them from the other team. But fumbles lost. Texas is one of the worst in the country. They've lost 9 fumbles. Tied for 109th place in the country. Aggies are only at number 11. They've only lost 3 fumbles. And that's a big deal because they have the same injury issues at running back that Texas has had. They've lost running backs over the season as well. So they're going into their depth in running back as well. So for them to have only lost 3 fumbles the whole year, including going back and forth between quarterbacks, that's pretty impressive. Ball security is they're confident in their ball security. And just like we saw Kentucky coming in, punching balls, that was the game plan. Punch it out, try to get a short field. Can you imagine how the Aggies are going to go for that? And the momentum, like you just said, the momentum of a fumble recovery back in their own end or our own end. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you again, once again, hit the nail right on the head. I think it's really impressive that A&M is positive in that field. Texas has had a lot of questions around ball security. There have been a few times that Texas has gotten lucky. Texas has come out on top of the turnover battle for most of their games here, but that hasn't all been by design, right? A lot of that, there have been some lucky breaks for Texas, fumbling out of bounds or out of the end zone. I think that this is a situation, I agree wholeheartedly. You're talking about a loud crowd being in there. It's hard for the offense to hear. We know that Texas also has some issues with those false starts, right? So you don't want to put yourself in bad position. You want to make sure that you have the best field position. You're starting from the best position that you possibly can. Turnovers are certainly going to play a big role in that. I think this game is going to come down to ticky-tacky stuff. This game is going to come down to small. How are you executing? How are both teams following through? What do they look like? Can they be consistent? Turnovers, once again, I think that's another key of this game, is going to play a big role.
All right, let's listen to Jade and Blue, because we're talking about that securing the ball. I know you mentioned, let me go here. Carlos Trevino says, no fumbles this week, take it to the bank. A lot of people are buying into that because we've seen Jaden Blue, and a couple weeks ago was Jarrett Gibson having the ball high and tight all week and being responsible for that. Let's listen to Jaden Blue real quick.
Like, what are you training your brain to do? What are you? It's good because whenever I feel it getting low, I tend to bring it back up here. So, holding the ball is just, it just builds you to make sure that it's high and tight, because, whenever you feel your wrist getting low, you tend to pull it back up. And I think that helps because, in games, I kind of carry it low at times when I'm making moves. So I just, try to walk around with it to make sure that I don't get it low.
Are you allowed to put this ball down and go to the bathroom? Or do you have to take it with your head?
No, I'm not. I won't put it. I won't be putting it down until we play Saturday. Maybe if I don't, I'll probably stay out of the ball the rest of the year.
I'll probably still have the ball the rest of the year. He's not putting it down Saturday or maybe the rest of the year. And then later he goes on to say that, they're asking him, did people come punch it out? He's like, yeah, a few players did. But then he said, this is what intrigues me about the mentality and the culture of this team. You would think one person might think, oh, they're coming and punching out because they want to catch me slipping or they want to knock it out. But he said that he appreciates that his teammates care about him enough to come help him prepare. Like, he didn't take it as an insult that somebody was trying to, knock it from him. He thought the way he said it is like they care about him. And they want him to be successful. So yeah.
I also want to point this out. Credit to Blue. He did not have to come out and talk to the press like that. He didn't have to come out. He doesn't have to talk about these things. He doesn't have to have player ability. And to his credit, he has come out and he's faced this kind of fumble issue dead on. He's talked about it. He's taken accountability. He's talking about what he's doing to take the steps. And I agree. I mean, as sick as some folks might be about talking culture, that is a huge part of the culture, right? This isn't about being vindictive or being ugly. It's about being better. And what you do when people are watching and what you do when people aren't watching, that is even more important. So the team coming together, helping each other out. Yeah, I love that, man. I think that's a great mentality to have. And I think that is what sets this Texas team apart from Texas teams of the previous era.
All right. So let's look at a couple more matchups with Texas and Texas A&M. Something that really surprised me, really surprised me, was we saw at the start of the season, we said how Sark addressed red zone offense, and he talked a lot about you get what you emphasize. It was a huge issue last year of finishing drives in the red zone. This year, even though they're one of the best in the country in passing efficiency and scoring efficiency overall, in the red zone, they're struggling. They went from top 10 red zone earlier in the season to down to number 73, tied for number 73 in the country in red zone offense. I was shocked to see that the Aggies are number 2 in red zone offense. Number 2. Texas is number 10 in red zone defense. They are number 107 in red zone defense. Huge key here for Texas will be get to the red zone and keep them out of the red zone. What do you have there?
Yeah, agreed. Look, I mean, I think that's something we talked about early on in this season. Last year, Texas was absolutely abysmal in the red zone. Now, I think something you do have to factor in, Texas has been doing pretty good with explosive plays. There have been some big plays in these games where they're going on sustained scoring drives, but also they have these big explosive plays that start outside of the red zone and end with a score. So I do think that's really important to look at too. But to your point, Rocky, that's something Texas has floundered a little bit in these past couple of games. What are they doing with the ball? How proficient are they being? We know against that Georgia team, Texas really squandered their opportunities. They had the ball plenty and didn't do a daggum thing with it. So, yeah, I think that red zone offense for Texas is going to be really important. What is Quinn doing? Can Texas protect the ball inside the red zone? And can they capitalize? And this is going to be one of those games where you can't walk away. I mean, again, look, we're the people that yell, take the points. You should always take the points. But it's going to be important. And I think that's going to be a key factor in this game. What are you doing in the red zone? Are you walking away with 3 points? Are you walking away with no points? Or are you punching it into the end zone and running that score up there? I think that's going to be really important for Texas, especially with some of the questions that we've seen surrounding Quinn and his inconsistencies these past couple of games.
Whew, yes. All right, let's look at another difference between the Texas that is going to be huge. You mentioned a minute ago, momentum is a real thing, especially rivalry games, heated games. Momentum matters. Turnovers are a big thing. We talked about the fumble issues, and that's probably a goal of the Aggies to really go for those turnovers. But overall, the season, they're not the best in the country at turnovers. So Texas is one of the best, highest turnovers gained, 24. They are the best in the SEC with 17 interceptions, right? You add in the fumbles they've recovered, and they're up to 24. The problem is, you take those first drive interceptions from Quinn and those fumbles from the running backs and sometimes the special teams, and you have 17 turnovers against. So Texas has a net 7 turnovers, which is tied for number 21 in the country. Aggies have only gained 15 turnovers, and they've turned it over 11 times, mostly interceptions. We saw they only have 3 fumbles. So 15-1, net gain 4. So they're tied for 41, which isn't that bad. They're not negative. They're still in the positive. But that is something Texas could take advantage of, having a little more edge in the turnover. And if they can pressure, Marcel Reed's fantastic athlete. He's playing well, but he's still young. And the opportunity is there with the number 2 secondary in the country to go get after him should they force him to make some errant throws.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that's a matchup that I'm excited to see for Texas. Texas this season has done a really good job with mobile quarterbacks. We saw it with Pavia. We've seen it throughout, the Mississippi State game. Now, Texas is not playing. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like we've been playing the best of the best of the best in the SEC as far as that goes. But there have been solid quarterbacks that have the ability to use their legs, move the ball, and make smart plays. The Texas defense has shut those quarterbacks down. And you added in the point here. Again, I think Marcel Reed is A&M's best option at this point. But there has been some questions with quarterback. If Texas can continue to do what they've been doing, if the defense can continue to do what they've been doing all season, get that pressure on the cornerback, contain him, make him make choices, make him use his arm, make him make decisions, I think Texas has a really good shot here. Again, that quarterback position is going to be really important for A&M, and I do believe that the defense is going to bring it to them and continue to do what they've done all season long.
All right. Is there anything else you want to look at about the matchups before we focus a little bit more on what the Aggies themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to talk a little bit of key matchups here, but we can do that moving into it.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I think this is going to be the story of this game, and I want to get your thoughts on this too. How do you feel that A&M matches up against Texas? How is A&M's defense matching up against Texas's offense here? We talked a little bit about Quinn. We've talked about the Texas defense a decent amount. How do you feel on the opposite end of that? How does the defense for A&M match up against Texas's offense?
Position group. I think Texas offensive line should. I would say the Aggies' strength, of course, is their defensive front. I think our experienced offensive line who has played together for years, most of them the last 2 years together, solid. We saw them take over the game against Kentucky last week when Kentucky knew they were going to run it with, a limited Quinn Ewers. They were able to do that. They really, put their big boy pants on when it mattered the most, just like they did at Arkansas when they needed a drive to finish the game, and they were able to do that. I like that matchup of Texas offensive line against their defensive front. I would say they're probably evenly matched. I think where Texas has the advantage is the Aggies secondary. They are ranked, yards allowed, number 79 in the country in yards allowed. And they give up big plays often. Like the last 6 games, they've given up a huge 50-yard or more play, I think, in the secondary. So put Sark's game plan of putting some wide receivers in space, and it is there. The question is going to be, can they pass protect long enough for Quinn to find the open man and for those routes to develop? What do you think about the matchup of Texas offense versus Texas defense?
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think the advantage here goes to Texas's offensive line. I think they're playing, especially in that Kentucky game. We saw a lot of that potential early on in the season. There were a little bit of questions, had a really bad game against Georgia. But we saw the O-line get back to the form that we expected all year these past couple of games for Texas. I think they're going to do a good job. I would argue, and we've mentioned this, but I would argue the O-line has been doing their damn job. When we've seen mistakes from Quinn, it hasn't been on the O-line. They've been giving him enough time to make the decisions. It's just been some of that hesitation with Quinn, a little bit fighting that injury, that ankle injury, a little bit fighting the oblique injury earlier on in the season. But Quinn's, when Quinn was sacked, only 2 sacks last game against Texas, the O-line was doing their job. And I would argue that those sacks that came were because Quinn wasn't making his decisions fast enough. He either didn't tuck it and run, or he didn't get rid of the ball fast enough. There's only so long that your O-line can hold up. So yeah, I like this matchup. I think the O-line is going to pit well against A&M's D-line. I do think that the key to this game is going to be, can Quinn keep calm, keep cool, and make smart choices here? We know he's fully capable. Again, we say this every game, and I feel like a broken record, but it really depends which Quinn shows up. Are we going to see the swaggy, confident, versus Alabama last year versus Michigan this year, Quinn Ewers show up? Or is this going to be the guy that kind of overthinks things, worries a little too much, isn't quite making those passes, holding on to the ball too long, like we just mentioned? How is his footwork looking? I like to think that Quinn really steps up in the big games. And when the pressure is very much on him, I think for the most part, he shows out. Again, the little bit of an exception in his career here, but I think the opportunity is here. And being a guy from Texas, I think Quinn.
I think you froze up, Megan. You'll join a second, but I know what you're saying. I think we have to add to that conversation too is the issue of Quinn's injury. He's going to be limited. He looked pretty limited. Sorry, you locked up. But I was just saying,
Yeah, sorry about that.
Quinn looked limited at the end of the game. He was limited. They said, you know, he's limited in practice this week. That's where you have the question of we've seen him be foot happy or foot static sometimes, and a little bit frozen, but he's made better decisions. No turnovers, no interceptions. He had the one, technically it wasn't counted as an interception, but it was like more of a
tip.
Ran it back. Yeah, the tip thing ran back for a touchdown. Unfortunate, but overall, he's been protecting the ball lately, making good decisions, throwing it away, and even taking a sack isn't the end of the world. Just don't turn it over, right? You might have put yourself in a little bit of a hole, but don't turn it over. Protect the ball, especially on the road, especially in heated environment. You mentioned, are we going to see the Quinn of Alabama and at Michigan in these big games in the Big 12 championship game? I feel like Quinn on the road is just cool, embracing the hate, like everything that I think the team, like this is one thing that's really cool. I want to say was it Rod Babers who said it the other day? I don't remember. They said when you're on the road, all the love you get is the love you brought. Like, you know, your team, the love that y'all brought, that's all the love you're going to get, right? And, you know, the Texas fans travel. We've been to all these away games this year, and we see huge pockets or even a big chunks of the stadium in burnt orange. Like Texas travels when all their teams leave because Texas has won 10 straight road games. When their fans are gone and the Longhorns are left, it's a big crowd, right? It probably won't be as much this game because a lot of Aggies aren't selling their tickets, of course. But there will be Longhorns there, plenty. Texas feeds off that, embraces that hate, right? And they know all the love they're going to get is the love they brought. And they have each other. And there seems to be something about this culture that brings them together on the road, right? Coming together and you have that brotherhood on the road that is really working. And I think it goes beyond staying, you know, yes, you have to stay calm and you can't play emotionally and all the things Sark talks about. But I think when they really come together on the road, those are culture statements, right? When they find ways to win on the road, it's not easy. We saw a couple weeks ago, 10 SEC games, only one lost at home. And that was where Texas went to beat Arkansas. So we see that it's hard to win on the road, and Texas has been doing it. So I would just, that's what I think. I think we're going to get the best Quinn he can be, but we have to talk about that ankle and being in a boot and being limited. And do you think, I have a question, side note, do you think they have packages already planned for Arch?
Yes. I mean, I think this team is more prepared than,
like, for this game, not just, Arch has plays. I mean, against this Aggie defense, ready to come in.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, given the state of of Quinn's ankle, yeah, you want to make sure that your backup QB is ready to roll, ready to go. That being said, I think the game plan has always been around Quinn being in, and if he can go, he's going to go. I don't think this is going to be a thing. You know, if Arch makes it into this game, something has gone very wrong for Texas. I will say that outright. I don't think they bring him in as a surprise. I just don't know that you throw Arch into this situation. Is he capable of managing it? Yeah, I believe that. But I've been saying this, I'm going to stay saying this. Texas's best chances of winning are with Quinn, you know, being Quinn as quarterback. And of course, I'm going to put the caveat on that. It's got to be a healthy Quinn. It's got to be a smart decision-making Quinn. I wouldn't be surprised. Listen, this is one of those rivalry games. Showmanship is there. I appreciate the boot. I appreciate that he's in the boot. I'm not 1,000% convinced that the boot is totally needed. I think that is a good way to keep them guessing, keep them how
they're preparing for both. Even if they have to take a part of practice to prepare for Arch as well, that's a few minutes. They didn't prepare for Quinn.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, when I tore my ACL, I had the big knee brace. I had all of that. I kept that knee brace, and I'm not going to lie. I used it a few times when I didn't need to when I was flying, because you sure do get some sympathy points, and you sure do get to cut at the front of the line, and people sure do treat you a little different when you got that
You're
brace
hilarious.
on. So I'm just saying, maybe that's a tactic here too. But yeah, and I'm not quite sure where I got cut off earlier. Sorry about that. My connection could
Oh,
be a
that's okay. We
little
were
hit
just
or miss here.
Yeah, we were talking about which Quinn are we going to see? All
Yeah,
right.
but
So since you mentioned Quinn, and a minute ago we talked about Marcel Reed, who do you think has the edge this week? A maybe physically limited third year in the system Quinn, or a young, healthy, maybe limited, because he did stumble a bit at the end of the Auburn game. He did take some tough hits and did have a little, was maybe limited at the end of that game. Marcel Reed, younger, fitter, more mobile, but young in college football world. Who has the edge?
Listen, this is one of those games that makes or breaks legends, right? But yeah, I'm saying Quinn hands down, because of the experience, because of the talent there. A&M has been hit or miss, like we mentioned a little bit earlier. Wigman's had some good games. Wigman's had some terrible games. Reed, I think, is their best bet at quarterback. He, of course, is QB1 at this point, but he's young. And this is a crazy environment, and this is a different kind of game. I know A&M is playing at home, but this is a feisty Texas defense that he's going up against. I think that PK is going to throw some different looks at him. I think he's going to try to confuse the young quarterback. I definitely think Texas has the edge here because of experience and because of the motivation. I do want to point out, this too. A&M, looking at their passing, that is one area that they've been a little weaker compared to opponents. Average passing yards per game over the course of this season for A&M, 208.73. Average passing yards for A&M's opponent over the season, 227 yards, 227.73. Looking at Texas's version of that,
okay.
Average passing yards. Let me pull this up. I just had it. Average per game for Texas, 279.73. Average for Texas's opponent in the air, 143.45. So big disparity there. I think that the Texas defense is going to be unlike anything that Reed has gone up against so far this season. And I think that's really where Texas is going to have the edge. As far as Quinn going up against A&M's DBs versus Reed going up against Texas's DBs, I think Texas has the clear edge in both of those matchups there. So yeah, I'm giving the edge to Texas for quarterback throughout this game.
All right. This is something that we should mention, Megan, because it's come out in the last hour or so. Texas injury report, the availability report. We got to look at this. Texas at Texas A&M, 6:30 Saturday night. Of course, we know the usuals. Unfortunately, Derek Williams, knee injury, CJ Baxter, Christian Clark, all three running backs. And Quinn Ewers listed on the injury report as probable.
Again, I'm going gamesmanship here. I think this is something Sark isn't going to tip his hand. He's not going to show it here. I think that they're keeping that boot on. We're going to call it precaution. I'm going to call it showmanship. I think we see a feisty Quinn ready to go.
Yeah, we see Derek Williams when he went down. Jelani McDonald got a lot more playing time. Wow, he's really taken advantage of the opportunity, making his reps count, like Sark says, and fantastic. So unfortunate. It's so unfortunate when Derek Williams went out. Just your heart breaks and you say, "Oh no!" And then what happens? Jelani McDonald balls out, and so. Unfortunately, those things happen, and it's too easy to say, "Oh, next man up." But when you have when you're recruiting at this level, developing at this level, the depth it shows up. So we see Derek Williams still out. Of course, we know he'll be out probably till next season. Quinn Ewers listed as probable. That's interesting. Ruben Owens. Let's look at the Aggie side. Ruben Owens. We're about to talk about the running back who has the running back advantage. They lost Le'Veon Moss, a few weeks ago in that knee injury, and then we see Ruben Owens, who has been questionable with a foot injury, some kind of foot ankle injury since earlier in the season, and he's now, I think it was preseason injury, wasn't like a camp injury or something, and they're saying that he's going to try to give it a go maybe this weekend.
If there's any game to do it, it's this one. Again, the motivation's going to
if
be
your
high on both
doctors
sides.
say it's okay, and why not? So they have, of course, they're like third or fourth string quarterback still on this list. Chase Bisontis, wasn't he limping in the last game, and then they had another injury, cornerback, not cornerback. Yeah, one of their DBs was injured last week. I think it was Tyreek. So there we go. Those are pretty healthy teams.
Relatively speaking, yeah. I think
pretty healthy teams.
Looking at Texas's injuries right now, there aren't any huge surprise other than the question marks surrounding Quinn Ewers. Is that ankle good to go? Other than that, I mean, these are all injuries that have been around for at least the past few games, if not most of the season. So I don't think many surprises for Texas, whereas A&M, they'll see, is their O-line good to go? Again, we're talking running backs earlier. You posed that question, who holds the edge in the running back room?
Yeah, what do you think?
Injuries obviously play a big role. If Texas was at 100%, I would say hands down Texas, zero question. But A&M losing to running back was a big blow to A&M. He was starting to really gain some momentum there and doing really well. I'm going to give the slightest of edges to Texas in this. But I think, again, here, it's going to be that ball security plays there's a big question mark with that. Again, love Jaden Blue, love his work ethic. But when you have that question, he has lost the ball a few times. Texas has been lucky to get it back a lot of times too. There's some question marks there. But when you put the combination of Blue and Wisner together, we haven't mentioned Wisner much this episode, but my God, is he ever coming on at the right time, putting that work ethic in, showing that work ethic off, and really putting the team on his back when it's needed. Let's talk about, just real briefly, that 8+ minute drive. What was it? 8 minutes, 22 seconds, something like that. Sustained drive at the end of Texas's game against Kentucky. Zero throws. And Texas, again, you're talking about a hurt Quinn Ewers. Wisner said, don't worry, fuck it, we ball. Let's go. And give me the ball, give me the rock. And he put the team on his shoulders and really drove it through. Again, credit to the O-line for doing their job there too. So
Wisner and Blue had a few carries in that drive too. Yeah.
Right. Fantastic. I'm really encouraged by that. So looking at the state of both of those positions for both teams, I'm giving Texas the edge there for running back.
Yeah. The only reason I would say Aggies are in there too is because they don't lose the ball.
Yeah.
And that is the huge
ball security is a huge
99% of being the running back is finishing the drive with the ball in your hand. I think that's the most important part. I think it's more important than did you get a yard, 3 yards, 4 yards, or did you lose 8 yards? But did you lose the ball? I think that is the biggest. And when the Texas Aggies only have 3 fumbles lost all season, we've had almost that many in a game. I would say I would give the advantage of ball security to them, but the depth, I think we still have enough depth with the 3 that are getting lots of carries now. All right. So wide receiver, I would have to say with the Aggies having the 86th best passing offense and Texas being a top 15 passing offense with at least one first round wide receiver by Isaiah Bond, even though he might still be limited. He's not on the injury report, but we know he still could use some rest. I would say Texas definitely has the advantage at wide receiver.
Agreed, hands down. I think Texas has been showing out. And again, you mentioned the next man up mentality. Once more, Texas is really in a good position with that running back room. So keep everybody healthy, keep that rotation there. Again, I'd like to see Wingo have a few more touches in this game. I think a lot of it's going to be on Bond, but Texas is in a great position here. If one guy isn't performing, again, Golden has had some great games, been really efficient in his last couple of games for Texas. So there's a lot of depth there for Texas, and I would definitely give them the edge.
Yeah, we've seen DeAndre Moore be big on the road, so that would be a good spot for him. And of course, when we include receivers, we have to include the number 1 receiver, which is a tight end, Gunnar Helm. And also I keep thinking, like, as much praise as an opportunity as Juan Davis has gotten lately in key spots, maybe they have something up their sleeve to include Juan Davis and more in this game too, knowing that if they're seeing that Gunnar Helm is, they're looking to Gunnar Helm, or maybe trying to take Gunnar Helm out of the game. We've seen 2 tight end sets that are working, and Juan Davis find himself available. All right, offensive line, Megan. Duh.
Giving the edge to Texas here, and by edge I mean hands down, full body length, 7 car lengths ahead here. I'm taking Texas's O-line. Again, like we mentioned earlier, this is a veteran group that's played together really well. They've had some really wonderful games at the beginning of the season. A little bit of a few stumbles there in the middle, but they've really come back on towards the end of the season. They're going to be highly motivated. This is going to be a fun group to watch, and I think they're going to put a lot of this on their shoulders. They're going to take care of Quinn. Texas hands down has the advantage here.
All right. I agree. Offensive line goes to Texas. Let's do defensive line and switch over to defense. I'm going to say, is if we're talking about the entire defensive front, and I'm going to give maybe the edge to the Aggies, but the Texas defensive line is statistically great. They are one of the best, and they're turning out statistically to be a top defense in run stopping and pressure and getting to the quarterback. So I don't know, but maybe it's a push.
This is where I will disagree a little bit with you. I think Texas's D-line under Kenny Baker, again, coming into this season, there were a lot of questions. How is Texas going to respond with the loss of Bo Davis? How is Baker going to come in and connect with these guys? And I think he's done a phenomenal job developing. Yep. We've seen a lot of improvement, even more improvement in that player development area in the Texas D-line, which is no small task. Again, we're considering losing Sweat, who am I thinking? Oh God, why am I blanking?
Murphy.
Thank you. Yeah, Murphy and Sweat. I mean, those are big shoes to fill, both literally and figuratively. And I think Texas has done a really good job with that. So I'm going to give the edge to Texas here. I agree. This is a closer contest between the two. But I really think that Texas, the defense has been balling out, and a lot of that starts up front. That pressure, the D-line has been doing a good job. Cornerbacks, they've been making the cornerbacks' jobs a little bit easier. Cornerbacks have been locked down on the island, but you've got to get that pressure with the D-line, and I think they've done enough to really make a big difference in the game. So I'm taking Texas in this one.
That's true. When the grades come out each week for the top performing D linemen, we see Alfred Collins in there. We've seen Sweat. We've seen, like, statistically, Jermaine Lole has been playing really well. So yeah, I could see that. I could see.
Yeah, Lole as a backup has been doing incredible things.
Yeah, he's had really big plays, impactful plays. The 4th down stop last week was huge. Yeah,
right.
He's making his reps count, right?
Absolutely.
Linebackers, I mean, who's better than Anthony Hill with Leonga Lafau, and how do you top that? Right now, one of the best in the SEC.
Agreed. And again, I think Ant Hill's got a little extra motivation here, right? He was in the running for A&M. A&M's been jawing just a little bit about Ant Hill, so I think he's going to come in extra motivated. And I think he's going to be wearing that Butkus snuff on his shoulder too. I still am pissed off about that. I still don't understand in what world is Stutzman better than Hill in this conversation. So yeah, I think maybe we get the equivalent of a Vince Young Rose Bowl performance out of Ant Hill because he's pissed off about results here. I think he's got a lot to prove, but yeah, it's hard to find a better combination at linebacker than Texas is running right now. So I'm excited to watch him play. Definitely hands down, give that to Texas.
All right. Safeties / CB cornerbacks, DBs. So let's just go DBs. Texas hands down.
Agreed.
Aggies are really struggling. They give up explosive plays. We've seen the last few games, we were able to move the ball on them pretty easily. Texas, the number 2 passing defense in the country.
Right.
People can say they haven't played all the high power offenses, and that's true. But you look at what those offenses normally score against other teams, or how much they move the ball against other teams, and how much they move the ball against Texas. These DBs are consistently, Jade Barron and Michael Taft, consistently the highest graded safeties. Makuba is now making a huge impact on the stat line. And then you have Malik Muhammad and Jelani McDonald, all these other DBs really stepping up. They just are shut down, no fly zone, number 2 in the country. So even if you say, oh, they haven't played high flying offenses, what those offenses normally do to other teams, they don't do to Texas. And that's all you can ask, right? Is who are you playing? How are you taking care of them?
Right. This is another thing I want to point out. I brought up these passing stats earlier. Again, this is where there's a big disparity in you look at Texas's stats. Texas on average is throwing the ball for 279, let's call it 280 yards per game on average, but their opponents are only throwing for 143 yards. That is
2 to 1.
A huge disparity between, exactly, a huge disparity between the two. Texas defense has been lights out. I want to point this out too. Didn't talk about this earlier, but Texas, and again, we're just talking passing here, right? Texas on average, they've had 32 passing touchdowns on the season, whereas, and this number jumps out to me, whereas Texas has only allowed 4 passing touchdowns on the season. Again, you look at A&M, they have 16 passing touchdowns on the season. They've allowed 15 passing touchdowns on the season. So yeah, clear, hands down, Texas has the advantage here, both with wide receiver and with cornerbacks. I mean, the numbers are speaking for themselves here.
Tell me the numbers you just said again about passing touchdowns allowed.
So for Texas, they have only allowed 4 passing touchdowns on the season. A&M has scored 16 passing touchdowns on the season and allowed 15 passing touchdowns on the season. So
Texas has 17 interceptions and only allowed 4 passing touchdowns.
Yeah.
Come on now.
This is something that's really impressive. Again, the defense, and this, we'll get into this. We're going to talk about key matchups. We're going to talk about keys to the game here. I'm going to show my hand a little bit. Texas's defense has kept Texas in the game when the offense has been underperforming. I think that's something that we continue to see. This Texas defense is one of the best in the nation here, and I think that's going to be a huge key for Texas. Does the defense show up and continue to do what they've been doing? Rocky, I'm just going to say it. Yes, I think they do. I think this defense is playing with a lot of pride, and I think, again, looking at who they're against, and this is not to knock A&M. Again, they've got a lot of positive going for them, but I just don't think A&M's offense is going to be able to handle this Texas defense.
How many points do you think they need to score to win this game?
Who is they? Texas or Texas A&M?
Aggies, the Aggies.
More than I think they are capable of scoring against Texas. Look, I think this is going to be, I mean, are we picking right now? Is that what we're doing?
No. Let's do our keys to a win.
Okay.
Let's do our keys to a win, and then we will we'll make our predictions. We'll have some bold predictions, then our score predictions. All right. So I'll give my 3 keys to a Texas win. First, they need to protect Quinn, and they do that by running the dang ball. It's going to be tough, but just like they didn't quit on the run game at Arkansas, and just like they didn't quit on the run game at Kentucky, it will come. Sarkisian's a genius at finding ways to run the ball, and he did that again. And the offensive line is fantastic. They will execute, and the best way to protect Quinn, because he will be limited. Or he will succumb to pressure like he's been doing this season. I find a way to run the dang ball on the road. Give the offense short fields. It is tough on the road in this environment to move the ball from the 20 to all the way down the field, right? That's going to be tough. So give the ball, if the defense can find ways to give the offense short fields, and maybe, hey, go ahead and score yourself, defense, because we really haven't had any very many pick sixes or big special team returns or anything, but give the offense a short field. That would be amazing, right? And my third thing is I have a break tendency. I like this break tendency, which was my key for Kentucky to stay in it. But my break tendency would be, do they have a package for Arch? Do they in the middle of the second quarter, does Arch come out with Quinn? Maybe there's some kind of QB thing. Like, who knows?
Talking
if anyone can dream up craziness, it is Sarkisian. And find a way. If either it's with or without Quinn, maybe there's something for Arch to break a little tendency and then get Quinn right back in there. But it after Quinn just went down the field for a touchdown. Don't do it after Quinn just went 3 and out, because then you're going to have everybody saying, QB controversy. All right, look, I 3 keys to a Texas win.
I'm not sure that Texas puts Arch in that position right now, but I love your idea.
Shock the nation, break tendency, do something crazy that makes the Aggies have to take a timeout.
What I think is more likely, and what I would prefer to see, honestly, let's see some of those big man packages like we saw in the Big 12 championship. Give me some defensive ends in there, some big man tutties, right? I want to see D linemen in his receivers, pull some Detroit Lions shit. I want to see that. Bring that in this game. I think this is an opportunity. I do think Texas and Sarkisian has some things up his sleeve for this game. I think he's dreaming up some special things. Again, I don't know that I agree that it's going to be Arch coming in and as a surprise, but I do think we see some crazy looks, some deep balls trying to catch A&M off. And again, momentum's going to play a role in this game. So I love your idea of break tendencies. I think we're more likely to see big man, I
love that you're saying that, because recently I saw someone's jersey up top. So I messaged his mom and I'm like, is he injured? Is he okay? Because his jersey's up here. And she's like, oh no, he's wearing his eligible receiver jersey now. And I'm like, oh, okay. We haven't seen it yet.
And
it's available. So
right.
Go back and look a few games and see if you see any players who had a different jersey because they were eligible here and eligible not, because that player could be an eligible receiver soon.
Yep. I love it.
My first thought is, oh no, is he injured? His jersey's out here. And she's like, oh no, he's wearing his eligible receiver jersey right now.
Yep.
Yes.
And I know who you're talking about. I love it.
Yes.
I love it. So
it's in there. It's in there.
Right. Those packages. And trust me, the team loves those. The team loves running those kind of crazy plays. So that's what I would look for. That's
loves them.
No doubt. No doubt. But that's what I would expect a little bit more with the break tendencies, with the, some of the craziness and catch them off guard kind of plays.
Right.
My keys to the game for Texas to win. Again, this should go without saying. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but damn it, it bears repeating. Protect the ball. Protect the ball, protect the ball, protect the ball. This plays into a lot of what you were talking about earlier when you say give the offense short fields. Texas has got to protect the ball. While the defense is more than capable, and the defense has we just talked about the stats about how many passing touchdowns the defense has given up, even though Texas has turned the ball over often in uncomfortable positions.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of game, this kind of environment, this kind of rivalry, you've got to protect the ball. You cannot continue to take those chances. I mentioned this last week. I am still going to say it. Texas, if they continue on the path that they are of turning over the ball, having those scares, getting lucky with those, fumbles, that dam's got to break at some point. And your luck is going to run out at some point. And if it's going to run out, it's going to run out in a game like this. So again, Texas has got to protect the ball. I love that Jaden Blue's been carrying a ball all throughout this week. High and tight, right? High and tight. But Texas has got to do themselves. They cannot shoot themselves in the foot. You've got to protect that ball. Number 2, I'm mimicking a little bit of what you're saying. As much as we talk about Texas offensive, again, statistically, you look at it, Texas does well in the air, plenty of passing touchdowns versus what they've allowed. But I'm going to say this too. Run. You've got to control the clock. You've got to control the ball. You got to control the time. If Texas can keep their running backs healthy, control the ball, control the tempo, they're going to be in a very good position. Again, the way Texas defense has been playing, I think that gives the offense, you want the offense to stay out there longer, control that clock, eat up the clock, and then score 7 points at the end. So I think a way that they do that, you just got to keep pounding that ball, find a way. Exactly like you said, Sark knows how to get creative. I think we will see some creative stuff here, but I think the key will be to run the ball for Texas. And the third thing I'm going to say, little unconventional perhaps, stay calm. You got to keep a level head in this game.
It's exactly so heated.
You can't let emotions get to you. And I mean, really, this is for both teams. You cannot let emotions get to you. This is an emotional game. This is a game that everybody's had circled on their calendars since we knew that Texas was going into the SEC. This rivalry is back. It is going to be a wild, wild environment. If you make a mistake here or there, if you make a penalty, you have a turnover, you cannot lose your calm. Quinn has to go in, if there's a turnover, if he makes a mistake, he's got to keep that level head. He's got to brush it off, water off a duck's back, right? You got to let that go. So stay calm. And this goes for the whole team. You can't be too amped. There's going to be a lot of emotions. Again, like we mentioned earlier, this is the first time in this particular rivalry for all of these guys. This is new territory for these young guys in this game. So you're expecting some emotions on both sides. Both teams are amped up for it, but you got to keep that to a minimum. You got to level that out and stay calm. So those are my 3 keys to the game.
Oh man, those are good. All right, let's get to what Megan.
That would be me.
That would be you. Let's get to the keys to an Aggie win.
All right. So for things
win, go ahead.
Yeah, for things to go the Aggies' way, get to Quinn, rattle him. We know there's some question around that ankle. We've seen him hold on to the ball a little too long. We've seen him, not have the best of footwork. If A&M can get through the O-line and get to Quinn, they put themselves in a really good position. Again, win that field position battle, force some turnovers from Quinn, force some bad decision making. A&M is in a good position to win this game. Again, penalties. If Texas shoots themselves in the foot, they've done a really great job. Again, credit to them for reducing those penalties in the past couple of games.
Big improvement.
Yeah, Kentucky, I think we saw 6 penalties. The game before that, it was 2 for 15.
Yep.
Really huge improvement for Texas on that front. If that crowd noise gets to them, the false starts, shooting themselves in the foot with silly mistakes like that, penalties, that can make the difference in A&M's favor. Again, that loud, raucous environment is going to favor A&M heavily. So Texas has got to keep a level head. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. But if A&M can put Texas in a position where they're causing Texas to make silly mistakes, that's going to work well for the Aggies.
Right.
And once again, I'm going to harp on turnovers, just like I said for Texas. A key to Texas winning, protect the ball. A key to A&M winning, take the ball away. If A&M can once again get to Quinn, force some turnovers, if they can get blue, if they can punch that ball out, I think this is, like I said, Texas is due. You keep losing that ball, you're not going to keep getting lucky. If A&M can force those turnovers and stay positive and get that good field position, that puts them in a really great position to win. What are your three keys for an A&M win?
All right. I think Carlos agrees with you. Create turnovers would be a big key for Aggies. I had that too, forced turnovers. So I'll have a different one so that we have 3 different ones. You said pressure, Quinn, as one of yours. My 3 keys to the Aggie, if the Aggies should win, I think go beyond pressuring Quinn, get him on the ground.
Yeah.
Pressuring him to an errant throw. He can throw it away. He can, maybe throw it at Gunnar Helm's feet, which we've seen, but get him on the ground, make him take the sack. Make him take the sack. Put this team in 3rd and 16, 17, or 2nd and 19. Make him take a sack. The pressure's great, and he does succumb to pressure, and you could probably get that turnover, that interception. But I think the Aggies need to get him on the ground and put Texas in a more difficult situation to get to the next first down. So that I would say sack him. The next thing I would say for the Aggies to win, and I don't know if they have the linebacker speed to do this, but I would say and Sark is excellent at this, make the Aggies have to defend all 160 feet wide. Texas has the speed. They do the sweeps, they do the motions, they do the lateral plays. If they can block it, they're amazing. If they don't block, it's -9 yards. But you'll have one of those, like we saw Contravian Wisner ran for over 150 yards last week, but had -9 yards passing, because 2 behind the line of scrimmage don't help. So make them, but test it. Make them spread out. Make them defend all 160 feet wide. Spread them out, and then of course later there's space for the run game, all that. It's all a big cycle, right? So I think spread them out, make them defend the entire field, the width of the field. And then my last thing is going to be, I didn't write it down. What was my last? Oh shit, I had another one. The key to the game. I'll think of it in a minute. Because I put forced turnovers, and I'm like, I have another one. I'll just think of it in a minute. Anyway, yes. Get Quinn to the ground, defend all 160 feet, and run the ball in Texas and use the clock. Time of possession is what I think what Kentucky was trying to go for. It didn't work out for them. So I'm going to say try to control the clock, keep the ball away from Texas. That's how you get them to score. If Texas can score quick and early and get the crowd out of it, that helps a lot. If the Aggies can move the ball, control the clock, and get on the board first, that helps that crowd a lot. So I'm going to say if the Aggies can keep Texas from scoring first and control the clock on their end, they have a chance to win this game.
Yeah, I agree. All right, before we make our score predictions, do you have any bold predictions for this game?
Yes. And I would like to say if anyone else wants to put their score predictions in the chat or their bold predictions in the chat, put them in now so we can share those. Let's see. Bold prediction. This is where we say something wild's going to happen in this game. I'm going to say 2 interceptions. I'm going to put the 2 interceptions and 1 fumble recovery. Texas is going to get 3 turnovers in this game.
Ooh, okay.
I don't know how many we're giving up. I don't know if we're giving up 1 or 8, but we're going to get 3. I'm going 2 interceptions and 1 fumble recovery.
All right. I like it.
They've only lost 3 all season. They'll lose 1 this game.
If Texas loses more than 4, like if Texas loses 4, just kill me now. That's going to be an insane stat. So, all right. I like it. I think I like it. I appreciate that you
the interceptions
reserve the
coming.
caveat. Yeah. I like that prediction. My bold prediction is that Gunnar Helm is going to lead the team in touchdowns this game.
Touchdowns.
We got to call it bold. We got to call it big.
Woo, more than Golden. More
like
than
Gunnar.
Matthew Golden.
I like Gunnar in this game. I think this is, again, I think we see some trickery from Sark. I think we see a lot of confusion and motion, and I think Gunnar Helm is going to be amped up for this one, especially this being, being where he is, being one of the last games. I think he's going to be ready for this, and him being a Texas guy, he's got a feel for what this means, and I like to see that. So you don't call it a bold prediction for nothing. That's why I'm taking Gunnar Helm. More touchdowns, leads the team with touchdowns in this game.
Okay, I gave a defensive bold prediction and you gave an offensive one. So now let's give the other side. I'm going to give an offensive bold prediction and I'm going to
Ooh, we're getting some good comments in here. I want to share these.
Yeah, tell us your bold predictions. All right, let me give an offensive bold prediction. I'm going to say, you mentioned it a minute ago, what trickeration could they have? Let's go big boy Teddy. Let's go some kind of big man touchdown, red zone. We need it. It's in there. We know it's in there.
I like it. All right, man.
We don't need to save it for the championship game.
Parappa, I hope I'm saying that right. 2 Longhorn special teams touchdowns.
2?
They don't call it bold for nothing, my friend.
Last time we got 1.
I'm gonna drink to that. I respect the audacity. Say it with your chest. I love it.
Richard made me some kind of apple cranberry something, and it's delicious.
Nice. So. That sounds very holiday-ish. Very Thanksgiving.
It's Thanksgiving drink.
All right, Carlos. You think the Aggies are going to score less than the Pigs? Okay. Again, I like that. There a lot of confidence in that Texas defense.
Game they scored 10 points at home that game, the Arkansas.
Yeah, 20-10.
Mm-hmm. I have a hard time thinking the Aggies are going to hold it to 10 or less than 10, so 9. What are you saying? A touchdown and a safety? Or
Aggies
3 field goals?
Yeah, 3 field goals, 2 field goals. Who knows?
Or 1 touchdown and a 2-point conversion?
I like it. I love those bold predictions for sure. All right, Rocky, you ready to throw out and put your name on it? What you think the score is going to be?
Yeah. So we saw earlier. Stats Award ran all the numbers, and he has it right on the Vegas number. The spread is around 5. It started at earlier. It was like 11 and 12, and it was at open last weekend at 6, 7.5, 7. Now it's down to 5. I think there are questions about Quinn Ewers' mobility, which is already limited. Add-in has been susceptible to pressure lately. Add-in hobbled on an ankle. That will absolutely affect the number. Going on the road, Marcel Reed, even though the team lost at Auburn, he had momentum. He had moments of some pretty great athleticism. And oh, man, he had that one throw where he threaded the needle and put his guy right in space, and he was gone. And of course, we've seen him run in touchdowns on his own. This is a tough game to pick, Megan.
It is.
It's a tough game to pick. Last week, I thought Texas, and I never pick us to blow it away. I thought they would actually blow it away last week in Kentucky, and they couldn't. They didn't. And they didn't blow away Arkansas, and they didn't, don't pick Texas to cover the spread. I keep telling you, Megan.
All right. Well, I'm going to say it with my chest first.
You say Jesse, it first. I don't know.
Jesse, I'm a little mad at you. You're saying 27-17. I'm not going to lie to you, my friend. I got my notes here. I don't know if you can see this. I said the same thing. 27-17 Texas. I think this is a low-scoring game, but I do think we see Texas beat that spread by a little bit. Rocky, I know you're going to be annoyed with me saying that, but yeah, I think Texas handles business. I think this is a really close game early on, but I do think Texas finds a way. Once again, I'm going to put a lot on that Texas defense. I think the Texas defense does a great job. Again, they haven't given up many touchdowns here recently, or throughout the whole season. I am giving A&M a lot of credit here. I do think that they score at least 2 touchdowns. So I'm taking Texas 27-17. I'm saying it with authority. I'm putting my name on it. God, I hope I'm right here.
All right, let's see. Carlos has 24-7. Of course, our Aggie friend, he's got to pick the Aggies to win, and I love that.
24, I love it.
Why not? Yes, go for it. Parappa says 49-13. Which team are you picking there? Hopefully the Longhorns.
Whatever you're smoking, either way, I want some of it, my friend. That's a crazy number. That's a crazy number.
Richard just texted me. He's picking 31-13 Texas. I find this. I think it's going to be hard to score in this game. I think the noise is going to be an issue for both teams. I think the pressure is going to be an issue for both teams. I think running the ball is going to be a challenge for both teams. I just don't see a young quarterback for the Aggies and a maybe limited, smart experience, but maybe physically limited quarterback for the Longhorns. May not a wash. I would still take the 3-year quarterback any day. I'm more of the 19-13 range. Like, it's going to be ugly and scary, and points are going to matter. I don't even know how you get to 19. So let's say 20-16. I'm going to go 2016 Texas.
All right.
It's going to be awful.
All right.
It's going to be it's going to be like gut-wrenching stress. Years are going to come off our lives. I just give the Aggies more the atmosphere and the speakers. Those speakers are really going to make a difference. And
I agree. This crowd is going to play a role, and this atmosphere is going to play a role. I said it earlier in the program. I'm a big atmosphere person. I think that does have an effect. I think it does play a role. And make no mistake, I think Kyle Field is going to break some records as far as decibels go at a college football game here. I think this is going to be a crazy loud thing. But if Texas, like I said, key to the game, if Texas can keep calm and keep on and do their thing, I think that the defense ultimately takes over and helps keep Texas in this. And the offense does enough to come out victorious. So, yeah, Jesse, I got to agree with you, man. Glad the rivalry's back. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. It's exciting to be back. The Lone Star Showdown, it doesn't get any better than this. You know, first year back after a 13-year hiatus, Texas A&M with the SEC championship berth on the line. It doesn't get much more exciting than that. Bragging rights for a year. Whew, it all comes down to this. Years of trash talking, decades of trash talking online, decades of family fighting and family feuding, or they're going to play it out on the field, figure it out this weekend. So we appreciate y'all being here for this special episode. We know that tomorrow's Thanksgiving. We know everybody's busy. We know you got a lot to do. So we really appreciate y'all joining us tonight on this Wednesday. Rocky, go ahead.
Yeah, let's say a couple things before we log out. If you haven't had a chance yet to go read CJ Baxter's letter, it's called To the Texas Brotherhood. CJ Baxter wrote a fantastic letter. It's in the Players Tribune. So he tweeted it out, but also if you go to theplayerstribune.com, you can read the letter he wrote. And it's a really fantastically written, like just a vulnerable, honest, powerful story about preparing to come to Texas and the injury and how he's responded and how he's going to be on the sideline, how he's been still part of the team and engaged with the team as a leader and a captain, even though coming in as one of the highest rated running backs and supposed to be RB1 going into the season, and that devastating injury and how his goals are still ahead of him. Just go read it. He's just fantastic. Also, we have to say we've been following this story. Megan and I have been following the story of the Alabama A&M linebacker. Before they had reported that he was still in the hospital, but it looks like this linebacker.
No, they reported that he passed away.
Yes, I'm saying before they reported that he passed away, but then they said that he's still in the hospital.
They took it back. I can't imagine what his family's going through. I really can't. I can't imagine what his family's going through, and that to fumble the ball like that as a program is not great. And hopefully, that whole thing is just a sad. Yeah, appreciate that we're ending this on such a downer here, but yeah,
yeah, it's really sad.
The
previous story said he passed, but he has not. He's still in the hospital. Either way, massive love and strength and power to this young man who suffered a head injury in a game, and he's still fighting for his life in a hospital since October. Yeah. And they posted that he passed away, and
the team did, yeah,
and he hadn't. And anyway, it's a crazy story.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Well, love to him and his family.
And that high note, we appreciate you all being here. Again, if you guys
give love to these kind of stories when they happen, right?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. All right. Well, we saw a lot of new faces. We really appreciate y'all joining us, participating. It's always a lot of fun when y'all jump in. Give us your thoughts. Yes. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong.
No, tell Megan what she's doing. I'm just kidding.
That's fair. That's fair. But we love hearing from y'all. Again, please go ahead and give the video a like on YouTube. Be sure that you subscribe to the channel. Again, we are Fire the Cannon Podcast on YouTube, on Twitter, and Instagram. We are Fire the Cannon and the one. Once more, we appreciate y'all being here. The Lone Star Showdown is back, y'all. Can't wait. Get fat on turkey, enjoy your pumpkin pie, your pecan pie, and then let's get ready for some crazy ass football on Saturday.
Mac and cheese, baby. Carlos, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Thankful the rivalry is back. Thankful for my friends like Megan. Thankful that people actually come and listen to us and want to chat and talk. And we'll see you. Like and subscribe, and we will see you guys soon.
All right. As always, I'm Megan.
I'm Rocky.
And we are Fire the Cannon, y'all. Hook 'em.